Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting of March 10th, 2022 to order. Do we have any special intentions? Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for everyone's prayer for a good friend of mine, a longtime resident of the city of Kenner, Ms. Shirley Edwards, who've lived on the Plantation Drive subdivision for many, many years. Ms. Edwards' family, husband, and all have been valuable access to the city of Kenner and particularly District 1. We're going to miss her. We love her. And I ask that you keep her and her family in your prayers. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President. Also just recently passed was a former longtime employee of the city of Kenner, Miss Virginia Prezzuto. I want to also have everyone's prayers for her and her family. She did serve this city for many, many years. A lot of those years was in our planning department, so thank her for that, but hope she's better off right now. So please consider her in your prayers.
Thank you, Councilman. Any others? Councilwoman McKinney, would you lead us in a prayer, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to say a portion of the St. Patrick's Day breastplate prayer. I arise today through the strength of heaven, light of sun, radiance of moon, splendor of fire, speed of lightning, swiftness of wind, depth of sea, stability of earth, firmness of rock. I arise today through God's strength to pilot me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to guide me, God's eye to look before me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to speak for me, God's hand to guard me, God's way to lie before me, God's shield to protect me. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Councilman Hayes, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. You have a quorum. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B 14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. We have correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads.
Mayor Zahn?
Thank you, Council Chairman. I'm just want to take the time to talk about the ISIS parade, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Foshee, who's going to give a report on a few different things that have been happening in the city of Kenner that I need to let the people and let this council know about. I'd like to recognize all the people, all the groups, everyone who played a part in the 2022 Carnival here in the city of Kenner. It was absolutely a true team effort. Amazing turnout for the first ever Kenner Gras that we had in District 5 at Kenner City Park. And the second time in 40 years for the ISIS parade. Obviously, we had to miss last year, but they had come back 2 years ago to be part of Kenner's Mardi Gras. Does not interfere with Jefferson Parish's Mardi Gras. It's an open night. I don't think we're interfering with New Orleans. But it's a good turnout. I walked that route from the Macy's, from this property right here to the reviewing stand, and it was packed. It was packed along West Esplanade. It looked like, a parade on veterans in Jefferson Parish. So I want to thank, just if you could bear with me, just to not leave anybody out, the people that made this possible. Carolyn Barrett in Visit Kenner, Mark Glorioso in General Services, Kenny Melvin in Field Services, the Kenner Media Team, the Kenner Police Department, not only for doing a great job with public safety and traffic control, but stepping up to help our Field Services guys with the barricades along the route. Of course, the Kenner Fire Department, Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, Kenner Police did tell us early on that they would need to reach out to another law enforcement agency, and Sheriff Lapinto and his guys stepped up to the plate. And if you were out there on that route, you saw them out there with the Kenner Police and Kenner Fire Department. The Jefferson Parish Fire Department Hazmat Division, Kenner Emergency Management, East Jefferson EMS, LCMC, Oshner EMS, St. Charles EMS, U.S. Army 62nd Survey Team, the Friends of Rivertown, Heidi Glorioso, PIO, Bob Ross, Mike Claus in the IT department, Charles Alon, Tooney Barrett, Ivy Wace and Elgin, which was our street cleaners, all the volunteers, all of our vendors, the Boy Scouts and food trucks at Kennegraw, AT&T for use of their mobile cell tower, Oshner, Kenner, and Vineyard Church for offering free parking, and the crew of ISIS, of course, and of course to the people of Kenner and all those who came out to enjoy Carnival. If I've left anybody out, my apologies, but these are the groups that we remembered to recognize. There was probably more individuals, more groups that did things along the way that we may not be aware of, but it's everybody coming together to make this parade a reality here in the city of Kenner. So only fitting that we recognize that. I hope this is something that continues here in the city of Kenner. ISIS is very happy. I spoke to the captain at Lundygraw. A few of y'all were at Lundygraw, and she's very happy with it. So it's working out well here in the city of Kenner. It passes through at least 3 districts here in the city, and it's something that we all need to be proud of. With that, if y'all have any comments, if not,
Seeing none?
I'm going to turn it over to, is another one?
No, I said
Okay.
seeing none.
Turn it over to Ms. Fauci. She has a few updates that everyone needs to know about. Thank you, Council Chairman.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I have a couple of things to go over with you this evening, so if you'll bear with me. The insurance claim for the city properties is still being negotiated. As you probably remember the last time we brought this to you, that we had received a $10 million advance payment, but that the insurance company was asking for information regarding the ages of roofs. And depending upon the age of the roof, there was going to be a certain actuarial assessment or calculation pertaining to the value. Having provided them with the ages of roofs, they have now come back with a request for the ages of air conditioners, which appears to be a little bit more difficult for us to find than the ages of roof, but we are doing that. So until that is complete, we will not have our next advance payment. So we are working on that with expedition. FEMA's doing an on-site assessment of our most seriously damaged buildings in April. That will be buildings A, B, C, Pontchartrain Center, and the gyms. At that point, once they have looked at them, we'll have a better sense of what our options are. I'm going to ask Charles to come up in just a minute to talk about the gyms. There are some options on the flooring. The biggest issues at the gymnasiums are the roofs and the floors. We also have an issue on the Berlino press box. The engineers reviewing the press box concluded that there was pre-Ida damage in addition to Ida damage, and neither the insurance company nor FEMA will reimburse us for any pre-existing damage. So some portion of the claim will be paid. Clearly, it can't be used. It has to be repaired or rebuilt. Some portion of the claim will be paid by our insurance and by FEMA, and some portion will be out of pocket. And Charles has some ideas about that as well, and I think Councilman Brannigan has seen some of the options, including putting up a trailer, not a trailer, but a storage unit, storage container, and there's a way to actually do that and make it look pretty modern and pretty nice. So at this point, if I could have Charles to come up and just go over a little bit about both the status of the gyms, the idea about the flooring, and then also some programming issues or programming information that we could give at this point.
Thank you.
Hold it. Thank you. I'll start first with the parks. As Ms. Fauci just stated, many are still waiting FEMA and insurance clearance. FEMA is set to be here in approximately 3 weeks, I believe. General repairs and repairs that can be done with the clearance from insurance and FEMA are already in progress. That includes redirecting individual light bulbs on the towers back towards the fields. For example, at Susan Park, the field is in great condition. It can absolutely be used, but we needed the lights turned, so Blocher's in the process of doing that right now. on the west side of Susan Park, there's a number of individual bulbs on those light towers that are actually more lighting KPD headquarters than it is the field. So that's what I'm talking about. The wind basically turned the bulb around. So they're going around to Susan Park and Berlino right at the moment. That's the first two they're hitting, and trying to adjust all of those lights back towards the field so we can get those fields going. We have repairs being done to light structures and poles, to other debris removal such as repairing nets, removing broken fencing, and Blocher's also removing a 60-foot light tower that crashed through a dugout and is still laying on a baseball field at Berlino. There are some light towers that Blocher cannot touch because they are, as they told me, they are too close to power lines, so they have to get energy involved to make sure that it's safe to go up there because it's 13,000 volts, I believe, through the lines that are within a certain amount of feet, pretty close to the top of the structures. As far as gyms, 2 gyms are currently open and have been for a couple of weeks for not only the schools adjacent to them, that's Gladys and Wentwood, but also they're open on Tuesdays and Thursdays for free play for basketball. All other gyms do have roof damage. The floors were picked up. That's the sport courts in the small squares that I talked about in the past. And what we're looking at now is a cost analysis of reusing what we have or replacing it with something brand new. And here's a little breakdown on that for you. So in looking at each gym's different square footage, new floors range from approximately $72,000 at Buddy Lawson to as high as $103,000 at Susan Park, for an average of approximately $81,000 per court, or a total, if we have to replace all 6, $644,778. That's an estimate. If we can use what we have, the sport court manufacturer suggests they come in and take up all of the tiles, all of the faux wood tiles that do not have lines on them, because it's almost impossible to get 2 side courts plus the main court, basketball, volleyball lines, a curved 3-point arc back down. It would be an unbelievable task to try and do that. So what they're suggesting, if we want to use what we currently have, they would pick up all of the tiles citywide that do not have lines on them, then start back at different facilities and put those back down as if it's a blank floor, and then come in and reline it. So the only part that would be used that's already marked would be the actual logos at center court. Other than that, all the lines would be redone. We would obviously run out of blank tiles at some point, so we would need a couple of new full courts at some point, but we would use as many tiles as possible first. The difference in pricing for that, and again, this is an estimate from the company Sport Court, replacing tiles and laying down the old floors after consolidating parts and restriping, starts as low as $35,000 at Buddy Lawson, goes up as high as $50,000 at Susan Park, an average of $39,000 per court, a total of $272,306. And again, that would, at some point, we would run out of those tiles and then need to get a new court and then reline that. As far as a priority, we have to get something done at Buddy Lawson so we have a gym open on the south side of Kenner. And then we also would like to get Berlino open secondary to that, because that's the third and only remaining gym that the schools use that cannot be used at the moment. So again, Gladys and Wentwood are open, have been for the schools to use. Berlino has not, because there's a number of issues at Berlino, both with the upstairs track as well as the floor, the hardwood floor being removed. But in my early look of what we need to provide to the citizens, I do feel like we need to do Buddy Lawson first, then Berlino, so the schools have access, and then we can move from there. That's the information I have on the flooring part. On the roofs, I don't have any information on the timeline of what gym would be repaired first or cost involved in that. I believe that would come once the FEMA folks are here on site within the next 3 weeks. To give you an update on programming, on the leisure side, we currently have recently opened 2 times on April 9th for Tea with the Easter Bunny, both sold out with over 75 individuals registering for each time slot, so 150 people. We have tumbling and martial arts taking place. We have 6 different options for children's art, 2 different options for adult art. Our Disney Encanto night has been sold out, and we have another kids' night out. It was successful around Valentine's Day, so we're doing another kids' night out where parents can register their kids, drop them off, go have dinner, come back and pick them up. That's on April 1st. On the athletic side, our second kickball session starts this Saturday. Unfortunately, it's going to be about 40 degrees, but I don't think it's supposed to rain. So we're going to start the second session this Saturday morning. T-ball, softball, and baseball registration opened up, and we will announce a date and what locations those will be played at based off the availability of fields. But we have really good numbers at the young kids. It's going to be really important for us to cultivate the young group, the 3-4s, the 5-6s, because that's where our numbers are, and keep them involved as they get older. And then also the soccer registration opens on Monday at noon. 2 free soccer clinics that were held just before Mardi Gras. Each of those had over 90 registrants in it. So we certainly anticipate great numbers for soccer as well. And that's what I have at the moment.
If I may, Mr. President, there was a question asked that I don't know the answer to, so I apologize for not having asked you before. But when we're putting these floors down, are we putting them after the roofs are repaired, or is there any risk to the flooring by doing it before the roofs are repaired?
According to the sport court lady, if there's still a possibility of any roof leakage, then she does not suggest putting them down.
So timing-wise, it'll be after the roof is repaired, and then that's the cost-saving measure that you're going to use by recycling some of the floors that we're able to save?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Charles, at Berlino, are we going back with the same type of wood floor, or are we doing a sport court?
I think we ought to go with sport court. That's just
Okay.
my opinion.
I'm fine with
A
that.
hardwood court's probably going to cost about $125,000 to $130,000, where the sport court, brand new, would be about $80,000.
I'd rather do the sport court.
And we may have enough. And sport court, look, in all honesty, the great part about the sport court is if anything happens where we have a single-wide City of Kenner rec facility and we needed to move any courts, we could. Or those sport courts have also been used for years at the Pontchartrain Center for different events. So they snap in. It's small squares. It takes a little time, but it's very easy to take it apart and move it.
But Charles,
Yes,
just
sir.
for clarification, so, Councilman, that's done after it's secured.
Yes, I don't
'Cause I
suggest
don't-
doing anything until the roofs are
Right.
certainly leak-proof.
Make sure we all have to make sure that these gyms have good roofs, not temporary patch roofs.
Correct.
Because spending $35,000 on the flooring that we have could still be a waste of our money. Because if the roof is not secured, it's still going to get messed up.
Right.
So I know, I just want everybody to understand, we're talking about getting roofs repaired first and then putting down these $35,000 floors in the gyms that need to be repaired. Roofs need to be repaired. Because we could spend the money, another storm, not a storm, but more rain comes and messes up the floor that we put down, that we already have, but it still messes it up.
Any potential moisture could
Right.
cause the clear
It's gotta be
film
secured.
that's on the top layer of those pieces to bubble. Once that bubbles in a large amount, if it's on the playing area, then we're back to square one. There's no way to resurface it. A hardwood court, you can sand it down and repaint it and resurface, but you cannot do that with the sport court.
Okay.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. And, Mr. Director, I want to thank you and all of the other directors and Ms. Fauché for coming out and giving me the opportunity to look at Buddy Lawson, Lincoln, and Susan about a month ago. I think that was important for me to be able to physically see and have an extra set of eyes. Like you said, the floors are up in all 3 gyms. The roofs are leaking in every gym. And even before the hurricane, the roofs have always leaked. We've always played recreation for the day-to-day, and with games, we would stop when it rained for the floor. It does make sense to do the roof before you do a floor. It's no different than our homes.
Sure.
But at least with our homes, a lot of people who, for whatever reason, don't have the money, like we need to get the money, they cover the roofs with some type of tarp. So, as you stated before, there are no gyms in District 1. There's nothing open for the children to play in. So we have to be able to think a little bit more to put some type of covering over the roof, which will secure it like we secure our homes before we change the roof, because once the tarp is there, obviously we don't want to mess up the contents in the inside. I think that is something we could look into, getting some type of tarp, because to not have anything is affecting the overall recreation department for those children not to be able to come in. And the gym is the meeting point. Anybody within District 1 know that is where the children congregate in the gyms, and then it expands to other programs, just like it will expand to all of the new programs within the city of Kenner that we're trying to do. I believe that we have spent resources for a number of things in the city of Kenner. Even where we are right now, we are waiting to be reimbursed by FEMA, but the funds came from somewhere to be able to do some of the things we're doing now that we have done. I think we should look into those resources for tarps and for the floors, because the floor at Buddy Lawson is gone. I didn't see it when we were in there. Maybe, I don't know if it's somewhere else, or we have to get a new one based on what we saw. But the other two gyms, they were there. Now, it did not give us any indication what kind of shape they're in, if they're good enough. So that is something that has to be determined. But I believe that it is important for us to start finalizing a plan to use resources, and then we can always, if it is a fact that it was destructed because of Hurricane Ida, we can ask again, like we're doing all over the city, from FEMA. But I don't believe we can sit back any longer or wait until the summer to get here when the children are out of school. We need to start on this right now, because again, in this Susan Park, Buddy Lawson, Lincoln Manor, we need to address the gyms first. I also respect and understand the situation at Susan with the light poles, because not only do you not want children or people or families to be out there around these poles, we don't want the people who work for Entergy to put themselves in harm's way. So that makes perfectly sense. I believe as that come together, and the daylight saving time, I believe, starts real soon, so that will give us additional lighting hours. So the lights are a priority, but it can wait a little bit based on the gyms, in my opinion. So that is what I think we should be addressing, covering up those gyms, putting the flooring down to open up the recreation department, particularly for District 1, but all of the gyms that has to be replaced. And all of the gyms may not have roof problems, but they all kind of use the gym to start off stuff. So that is something I would definitely like to work with you with, even if we have to get a committee together to see about where would those fundings come from to address the 80,000 from Buddy Lawson to 100,000 at Susan, not addressing the other gyms outside of District 1, to get that going as soon as possible. But again, thank you for meeting. I think we had a good conversation, everyone there. I think you had a perspective that only I can give. You don't live in District 1. You don't represent District 1. I grew up on the playground. So my perspective and some of the information is like inside traders. I have that information, and we were able to share that and come to some consensus, and I believe we are at that consensus, but we need to move forward in getting those facilities open for the children as soon as possible.
I agree.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Council.
Charles,
Yes,
so
sir.
on the roof damage, we are waiting for the insurance company to kick in?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah, I can answer too. So there's a difference between a structure like a building, a gym, where FEMA needs to come out and look at those damages. So lights on a ballpark field are a different type of category where they don't need to come out and do a site visit. So that's where the difference comes in. We're not waiting on the insurance. The insurance company did assess everything. We
Okay.
haven't, they're processing about 15 of our claims at a time is what they're doing, trying to prioritize, obviously, A, B, and C, Pontchartrain Center, stuff like that. But as they move along, the insurance company has the damage report. We're just waiting for FEMA to schedule those. And so in the next 2 weeks, they'll be here for A, B, and C. And then we're going to push for Pontchartrain Center, and obviously the gyms, are our next priority.
Okay. Because I think the goal is to try and get Buddy Lawson open
Yeah.
before school ends, if that's possible.
Must Berlino? Or
Buddy Lawson.
okay.
He said
Get the
Buddy
floor
Lawson
into
was the
Lawson.
first
Yeah,
one.
the flooring. So I guess we never want to jeopardize funding. We can always go ahead and fix things, but it's my job to try to make sure we follow the steps that FEMA advises us to so that we don't jeopardize any reimbursement. So like
Okay.
Councilman Carroll said, there's other ways we can try to fund things if that's what the council wants us to do. But as my job, it's and there's different factors. I understand everything you're saying, and I agree, but we don't want to lose out on funding that we could get, even though there's going to be a delay. So we're just going to have to do like a balancing on how long is that delay going to be? How long is it going to affect us? Maybe it's better we move in a different direction. So
Well,
we're looking at everything.
Well, when FEMA comes in town, if you'd like for Councilman Carroll and I to pick him up and bring him where we need to bring him, we can do
Yeah,
that.
definitely. So we'll let y'all know as soon as those are scheduled, just so
Okay.
y'all are updated and know like when we're meeting with them.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes. Thank you, Council President, and thank you for the updates. I really appreciate that. And I guess I just want to clarify, in terms of, so every plate or every recreational facility that has, or every gym has roof damage? Is that what
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so even like Woodward has some roof damage?
Woodward had minor. That's where
Okay,
our
right.
offices are out of, and
Okay.
we do have the tumbling and martial arts classes taking place. So at this point, I mean, there's no leakage into the building.
Okay,
So if we're talking about at Woodward, maybe just some edging to the metal roofing that's just kind of bent,
Okay.
not anything that's leaking. Where at Buddy Lawson, we actually had water with rainstorms that have come recently that got back into the center of the court.
okay. And then also Wood Lake also had damage, correct?
Wood Lake had extensive
But
damage. That
and-
roof was peeled back, but there's certainly a temporary roof.
Okay, and there's a temporary roof on Buddy Lawson as well, correct?
There is, but it leaked, yes.
Okay, so it's not, it failed, I guess,
Yes,
is what you're saying? Okay.
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that there was damage to everything, because you didn't touch on that.
That's
so-
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just, and thank you again for Director of Finance for giving that information. But I would like to speak with you as you addressed about other resources to use to support. Just looking at the numbers roughly, we're talking about $1 million on all 6 gyms, floors, or whatever. To myself and Councilman Brannigan, if you don't mind, to meet with you to see about what are some of those options that we may have to be able to do that. I think it's important not only for Berlino, it's no more important than Buddy Lawson or Lincoln or Susan. So I agree, if Councilman Brannigan would agree also to meet with you and talk to you about our ability to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm in, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Sorry, I should have also asked, so the cost of mitigation for like the failed, the roof that leaked, I mean, we can go back and get that fixed. We can pay for that to get re-tarped, correct? I mean, I would imagine that is, if we're supposed to be mitigating costs so no further damage occurs, we should be able to go back to Buddy Lawson and fix that so it leaks no longer, correct?
Yeah, so when we come up with issues at certain places, we'll reach out to the company that did the work for them to come back out and check. So sadly, sometimes we have to wait for a rain event, to see that it happened, but it's definitely possible, yeah.
Okay, so has that happened? If
As
that's
I
already happened?
know, every instance that I know of, someone's gotten in touch with Southern Cat to come back out.
Okay,
So they have come out to Buddy Lawson to.
I don't know I can't say the specifics about Buddy Lawson. Deborah might be able.
They've been placed on notice that there's an issue with Buddy Lawson. It is not a local company, so I don't know, and maybe one of these gentlemen over here knows when's the next time Southern Cat is coming back. We don't know. We'll find out for you.
Thank you, Ms. Fauché. Thank you, Director. Yeah, please, because if they put it up there for temporary covering and it's still leaking, then obviously something went wrong.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Ms. Fauci?
Yes, sir. So moving on to vehicles, we told you at one of our very first true meetings, indoors, as opposed to hanging out on the levee, post-storm, that we would revisit the trucks when it was safe to do so and make decisions going forward. So at the next meeting, Kenny Melvin will go over the current vehicle values. Ms. Herring will go over the force account claim, and then we'll discuss the delta between. So by the end of next week or early the following week, we should know how much we would make or lose at this point were we to liquidate the vehicles. You'll also hear from Mr. Melvin what vehicles are still necessary. What I think you will hear is that the number of vehicles is necessary, though the high-level trim is not. Those vehicles were acquired because they were literally the only vehicles available. The proposal will likely be to auction high-trim vehicles at the value price when work trucks become available. And just to remind you, when we do an auction, the council sets the minimum price. So you don't have to take a nice vehicle and auction it for peanuts. You'll have the appraised value or the offer from the company that will say, this is the amount we would pay. That would be then the amount that we would ask that the council set as the minimum value, and it would go out for an auction at that minimum value or higher. We would not recommend doing that until we can identify replacement vehicles, because right now, sometimes for these work trucks, you're actually waiting 9 months to receive them. There is currently only one of the vehicles remaining as a fleet vehicle, and the rest are assigned. Just a reminder, a fleet vehicle means it's a pool car. It's driven by anybody and everybody. It's not driven assigned to any particular person. So if you have any questions you'd like us to be prepared for on this topic for the next meeting, I hope you will please reach out to us and let us know. If you have any questions now, that's fine, but next time we'll be prepared actually with the values for the cars and how much the force account claim is going to be. Anybody before I move on to my next topic?
Go.
Okay. Temporary space. You have before you the appraisal on the Macy's property. We're negotiating a first 6-month rental, which will be the appraised value per square foot times the square footage we were using. As you recall, when we first started, it was with a very small area, about 3,000 square feet with the code office. We are now up to 55,000 square feet on the first floor and about, I'm not sure, it's a third of the third floor, so it's like 20,000, 30,000 square feet. That's the total that we're up to now. So based on my calculation, it's $85,000. Based upon the landlord's calculation, it's $330,000. So there's a bit of a difference, but we're working on that now. Then the location of long-term temporary is something that the council will need to make a decision about. I see on your agenda the resolution to return to 1801. I thank you for that. That will be very, very helpful for us moving forward. The decision, we understand there's a council committee to look at this, and we would ask, please, at the earliest opportunity to call a council meeting or the committee meeting so that we can present the relevant costs, benefits, and challenges with at least 4 options. Retrofitting city buildings such as gymnasiums and meeting rooms for offices and the Pontchartrain Center, leasing office trailers, continuing residency at Macy's, or residing at a different third-party site. At the time we selected Macy's, a real estate broker was contacted to do a market survey. Macy's was the only viable option at that time. However, we will ask that she assess the market again, as the climate may have changed in the interim. We are approved by FEMA for an additional 6 months at Macy's, but if we are going to be planning to move to a different temporary location, we will begin the approval process with FEMA for temporary occupancy elsewhere. If there are options you wish us to brief you on besides Macy's, other third-party sites, trailers, and retrofitting city properties, please let us know, and we'll research it for you prior to the committee meeting. Were we to stay at Macy's, the cost is in the appraisal, approximately $54,000 a month, of which we would be at this point reimbursed 90%. So it would be out $55,400. Now, the landlord wants $60,000, and we're having this conversation. We are the government. We cannot pay more than appraised value. I think that will work out. Staying at Macy's would also involve some additional build-out. As you know, our architect has been working with the fire marshal to come up with an acceptable build-out. These clever foam and fireproof paint walls have no UL rating, and without that, we will need to take some additional precautions. We have a fire watch during large gatherings, and we are evaluating the cost of portable rated wall systems. The portability is important, as we can take them with us to any other temp site the council decides on. So any questions about that?
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Toshi, for that information. And I'm glad we have something as it relates to a cost that the owners of this building will be charging us, and hopefully we can bring that down as much as possible. But do we have numbers as it relates to how much we have spent to retrofit this building, like equipment or material that you can get together and
We can get
give
that-
to us at the next meeting?
Yes, sir, we can do that at the committee meeting, or we can do that at the committee meeting and the council meeting. The sooner we can get the committee meeting together, obviously, the sooner we can actually identify, there's a lot of detail to go into that. The cost of these portable wall systems have to be assessed for Macy's, for the gymnasiums and Pontchartrain Center, for trailers, and then if there's any third-party site. I'm not aware of a third-party rental site like Macy's, but we're still going to make that determination. So cost of build-out up to this point, and then cost of build-out if we stay, because if we stay, we're going to have to spread out some more. The fire marshal is not going to let us stay on top of each other with these foam walls, so we're going to end up fixing the escalator, fixing the elevator. Well, the elevator's fixed, right? Fixing the escalator and moving some portions upstairs to get us further spread out. So there will be additional costs if the decision is to stay here. If the decision is to move someplace else, there'll be additional costs there. So that's kind of the point of that. But yes, sir, we will bring up what this has cost and then
Yeah.
what additional costs would be anyplace else.
Exactly, the combination of all of what you just said and what will be, what could be, but I'd just like to see the numbers, or we would like to see the numbers up to this
Of
point.
course.
How much we've spent and where we are with that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Ms. Foshee?
Okay, and Ms. Herring, do you have any updates on storm expenses?
I spoke to most of you, but I did put something at your chair, an update. So if y'all have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you.
All right, we have a bit of good news from Tom Schreiner on the water sector grant. Councilman Wilmot knows because I ran into him this week, so you need to act surprised. Mr. Schreiner, if you would please tell us what's going on.
Council members, we on? Yeah, we're on. Council members, I think y'all are aware of the water sector grant. I know I've discussed it before, and we had applied for that, and in particular, it was to help us out at the 4 MGD station. This is the station that's right next door to the Wood Lake Gym and right on the canal bank. Anyway, we found out earlier this year, that we were successful, and what the grant amount is $4,057,092. That covers approximately 75% of the project. City will have to fund the remaining balance of $2.2 million. We're going to fund that with one of our loans, and we plan on using our loan 6. The project is a complete rework of the station. We will construct a brand-new station just west of the existing station. It'll use up a lot of the parking lot that you see right now next to the gym. We'll have a whole new control room. We've suffered with that station for years. The controls are outdated. They need to be just completely replaced. The pumps are old. Some of those pumps were put in the 80s. Probably, we're going to let the design engineer tell us exactly how he wants to do it, but we envision a system where we'll be able to use these pumps that are presently getting rehab. We're going to let that be worked into the scheme. So we'll have a new generator there. We'll have an above-ground fuel tank. We'll have, again, a complete new station. It's a big station. It pumps directly to the wastewater treatment plant. It takes water from most of northwest Kenner. Do you have any questions?
Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask, as far as the $4 million that you referred to, as far as the $4 million that you referred to a minute ago, could you explain how that process worked and who was able to assist us in getting those funds?
Yes, we had the program manager on the wastewater project assist us. That was Digital Engineering. They helped us with the application.
Was it through the state?
Yes, it was through the state.
And was there anybody in the state that we have here?
Yes.
I think Ms. Foshee
Yes.
wanted to.
May I?
Yes, please.
Because you saw me jump in the other day and tell Representative Stagney how much I appreciate it. I was so excited. He's probably watching, so I'm going to say thank you for reminding me, and it's not thank you for nagging me, but he was very persistent in saying, did you apply, did you apply, did you apply? Yes, we did. I want to thank him profusely. I also want to thank Senator Smith and Talbot because they did a heavy lift on their side as well. So we're very, very grateful. We got some good angels there at the legislature looking out for us, and this is a really major coup for us because this is a very bad location, and we're going to be able to. We've been getting small amounts every year, 100,000, 200,000. I think we even got up to like 5 or 6, but it's not enough to fix it. This will fix it. Once we use our loan money as a match, we will be able to fix this, and it's going to be a tremendous improvement.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do we have a time frame, Mr. Schreiner?
Well, where we're at right now is that the engineer that's looked at it has come up with 3 alternatives. We've told him we want alternative number 3, which is the complete rework of the station. So now he's got to give us a proposal. So waiting on his proposal, which, we'll come to you. Hopefully we'll have something that we like, and we'll ask you for your approval. Then once we get that approval, we'll move forward with the design.
Any estimation, 2 months, 6 months?
I'd say I'd like 2-3 months. I think that's a good window.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I have a question about the space. Can we go back to that? The space that we need?
Yes, sir.
If we moved this facility to another facility, how many square feet do we need to operate, not in a perfect scenario,
Right.
but to get us to rebuilding or remodeling what we have?
So what we lost in the 3 buildings combined, and we were kind of to the gills there on that, is 55,000 square feet, 58,000 square feet. We are trying to also combine in the recreation office that we lost here in the Macy's. So combined, that's 72, but I think if we can just find 50 to 55, one thing is we could squish in together except for COVID protocols, so that's kind of put us in a bit of a problem in terms of being able to put 2 people in a cubby and that sort of thing. But if you could find something that's 50,000 square feet, and it's open enough that we can, because there's going to be a lot of computer connectivity and cabling, and I can't remember so there's a lot of infrastructures associated. The more buildings we use, like we had talked about, if we use gymnasiums or if we use multiple offices in the pavilion, in the Pontchartrain Center, the more we divide it up, the more redundant costs we're going to have, because each one's going to have a generator, each one's going to have a standalone computer routing system. But if we could find 55, or if we could find that combined and we could break it up, that will work.
Just to get us to the rebuilding process
Yes,
and
sir.
through that obstacle.
Yes, sir. And so while we will be presenting to the committee and then ultimately to the council based upon recommendations of the committee, the trailer option, it's a challenge as a trailer option simply because they don't make them big enough. I mean, you've been in the 7 wide that we have over at the Fleet Yard, and I can't remember how many they told me. It was going to be like 5 of those. So we will go wherever you tell us to go, and we will make it work. Our priority really is to give you the options, tell you what they're going to cost. One of our challenges will be is that the cost analysis that we're performing, FEMA will also perform. If we select an option, of all the options, if we don't select the cheapest option, we may lose reimbursement. So that's the only thing that we need to think about. If we go into our existing facilities, if we go into gymnasiums, and we've already heard how long it's going to take to fix those, but we're displacing programming in some capacity. So we probably wouldn't want to, take all the gyms or most of the gyms. If we go into the Pontchartrain Center, we're displacing some level of rental, not as much as programming we'd replace. We would probably need all of the upstairs meeting rooms plus 2 or 3 of the gymnasiums to come up with the total square footage. But if anybody out there is aware of 55,000 square feet of office or something like that we could move into, certainly it is definitely an option that we would be happy to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, one more. May I? So the last thing on my list is you have before you the capital outlay appropriations from the Green Book. The Green Book meeting, which is where Jefferson Parish calls a meeting and invites us to participate, but it's really the Jefferson Parish meeting. where it's the Green Book meeting, it's where they go over all the proposed capital outlays, and it's all of the parish. So it's organized first by parish programs, and they do drainage and then non-drainage, and then they go city. So what you have in front of you are just the excerpts. The first three pages, which are pages 1, 3, and 6, are the parish capital outlays requests that affect the city of Kenner. That would be the Bainbridge Canal closure, which is a one-year request of $4 million for a total 15.3. There is Canal number 10 concrete lining, which is, Tom, what is that? Okay. So the $530,000 it's a $7.4 million request. It looks like it's been in and out. And I think Councilman Wilmot can probably read this better than I can in terms of what those multiple numbers mean. So there's multiple linings on the Butler Canal, on Canal number 10 in 2 different locations. The Wood Lake drainage improvements, this has been on for a long time, and we've gotten money over the years. This is closing that one out. And then if you get to, where's the next one? Okay. Then the next group that's labeled B, page B8, where it says Kenner, these are actually the City of Kenner requests. Now, these are no different than last year's requests, but they are largely infrastructure. As you may recall, 3 years ago, before COVID and before, obviously, Ida, our priority was recreation. After COVID, the national and local priorities shifted to infrastructure, and that's really where you can largely get where most of the money will go to. So these are not in order of the priorities that have been granted to them, but what you will see are the requests are the Buddy Lawson concession stand and press box, the Compromise Street drainage improvements, 24th and Delaware sewer lift station. A lot of thanks to Senator Talbot, who continues to give us any money he can lay his hands on for that project. Improvements to the Berlino Regional High School Stadium. That was, as Councilman Brannigan will remember, something that started 3 or 4 years ago. It's a huge project. It should probably stay on here for years and years and years until somebody finally gives us money, but it's a beautiful project. Kenner City Park Phase 2, that's again to add gazebos. And Kenner Fire Department facility replacement, this is to add additional funding for the fire station that we're replacing for Loyola. This will not obviously do it. This is just our additional funds that we're seeking. Lincoln Manor Drainage Phase 2, and we believe that we received sufficient funding to complete Phase 2. So in speaking with Representative Stagney the other day when I ran into him with Councilman Wilmot, he has done Lincoln Manor Phase 1, he has done Lincoln Manor Phase 2. Part of the same drainage basin you will see is the Susan Park. So we're asking both for some assistance with the Susan Park drainage basin as well as the Rivertown drainage area. South Kenner drainage improvements and Pump to the River, of course, that's $10 million. That's going to take us a long time, but we have to just keep asking. Wastewater corrective measures, which is largely match money for our grant-funded projects, and then the Williams Boulevard drainage improvement. So that is everything that's on for capital outlay. Most, but not all of this is shovel-ready. All of this has already been on one prior year. So we've already had the opportunity to speak to our representatives and our senators about this. We've got a lot of support, particularly vis-a-vis the drainage project. So if anyone has any questions, they will once again go back to those Tuesday luncheons during the summer session where the actual green sheets are passed out, which are worth their weight in gold up there in Baton Rouge, because they do such a good job in terms of both reviewing the legislation, talking about and making sure all of our legislators are up to speed in terms of where to go, when to be where, and what opposition they're getting. So encourage anybody who can to go to those weekly meetings during the legislative session. And with that, I don't have any questions, Mayor.
Unless y'all have, go ahead, Councilman, sorry.
I just wanted to make a comment as far as our delegation that we have that represents Kenner. They do a bang-up job to help us get funds, and that's critical. It makes a difference. It really does. And these people have an understanding and relationships up there they're very important. And of course, drainage is always a primary project that we have, as well as the projects that many of the state will grant, and that's usually the number one thing. I know we have other things on our list, and of course, some of those things may come to fruition. We don't know, but drainage is always important. So I wanted to specifically thank all of our Kenner delegation that represents us in Baton Rouge, because they do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Foshee, for that information. Two things. One, my last conversation with Representative Stagney was, yes, that Phase 2 for Lincoln Manor, even when we were working on one, Phase 2 had kind of started. And I believe his last conversation was, yes, we do have the funding for that. So that will be, if don't want to misquote him, but thank you, Director. So that is fantastic to be able to move this project along, not just for one, but for both of them to make it even better. And two, and this is strange, I'm talking about two things that we have funding for. So if the Director, I guess this question is to you, since I first got on the council, we were able to get like a $2 million grant for South Kenner drainage. And with the different administrations, federal administrations changing, it always seemed like it was well, you brought me that, well, I don't want that one, bring me another one, or bring me another one. So if you can update us on that, particularly on where we are with that $2 million that we received, and we kept getting along Williams, the drainage project. So, you know, as everyone know that has ever drove through South Kenner Williams Boulevard, when it rains hard there. And the water goes into the OMV, it goes into people's homes, it goes into the next street, Carwin, it goes in on Felix Street. So we are assuming that this draining project that we have gotten the money for many, many years ago, and there's always seems to be something that is missing, that they're asking. Are we past that, or where are we actually, the status of that, Mr. Director?
Councilman, I wish I can give you a straight answer. This project has been around for well over 10 years.
Yes.
The project was accepted by FEMA with a different scope. The initial scope was not a practical scope. It had drainage water being routed to a wastewater lift station. The consultant that's now on the project realized that was a problem and went back to FEMA and said, no, we have to change this. And actually, the scope of the project now is something that'll do exactly what you're saying. It's going to leave the flooding on Williams just south of the railroad track. So we're working through that right now with them. And of course, it seems like every 6 to 12 months they have new people. They contact us and ask for new information. We've provided them everything. So we're again in the waiting mode. But I think we've given them everything that we can at this point.
So for their third or fourth or fifth phase of asking for information, do you feel comfortable that we have given them everything that they've asked for, and now the ball is back in their court to
Yes.
be able to let us know? And has the scope changed that much, in your opinion, professional opinion, that it should be 1 month, 6 months for them to review and get back with us?
The fact that it's changed is what they're looking at. It's a significant change in that the drainage goes a different route. Essentially, we're still trying to get water north of the tracks and eventually to Duncan Canal. The new scope does that directly and more efficiently. So, I think the reviewers see that. I think their stumbling point is that it is a change of scope and we have to go through certain iterations with them.
Yes, and that has always been the problem. You know, the scope changes, and once it changes, you know, we got this government red tape we have to go through. So hopefully we can get to the point where we have answered all the questions, they have asked as many as they can, so we can get this, you know, this area that affects the city of Kenner every time there's a hard rain, every time, and the people that live around there. So as far as you emailing or calling or speaking to someone, I don't know the last time you spoke with them, and maybe you can share that too, but if you can make a call to find out exactly something, you know, where we are, is to make sure that they have everything that they need from us. So they're not waiting around, and we think they have everything. If you can look into that for me within the next couple of weeks, and I talk about that, I would appreciate it.
Will do, just so you know. I spoke to the new GOSEP representative, and they requested information that has been provided at least 3 or 4 times before. But yeah, we're doing that, and we'll be speaking with them as well as our consultant.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Director. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schreiner. Ms. Foshee, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Mayor?
We are finished.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've received a request to change the order of business to take item 13C at the beginning of the meeting. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to change the order of business. Council members, please vote. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segura?
Yay.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to change the order of business. Item 13C is a resolution adopting an anti-harassment policy for the City of Kenner City Council to be applicable to all council members and unelected council staff for the City of Kenner. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Any discussion? Councilman Wilmot?
Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Clerk. 13C is a resolution adopting an anti-harassment policy for the council and for its staff. 2 items appear on the agenda today regarding the same matter. It's my understanding that we can only pass one of them. It's either this one or it's going to be 12A. This policy was drafted over several weeks with input by an attorney who handles sexual harassment matters in drafting such legislation, our interim city attorney, and myself and 2 other council persons. We reviewed several other policies on the subject. This policy creates an independent process, the best that we could do, and try and make it to where it's a separate part of a branch of government. The administration has its policy, law enforcement has their policy, and we want to try and develop and have developed something as independent as possible for the legislative branch, this council body. It utilizes an attorney who would handle sexual harassment to investigate. That's the difference. That's a key difference. So it's going to be an outside attorney who would come in and investigate. I think that's critical. Again, it's got several changes in it, and I'm just going to go over a couple of them. But it has, again, they have their own policies. We're going to have our own policy. And as far as education, currently we have to do 1 hour of sexual harassment training. That's statewide. That's all governmental employees throughout the state. We have been doing that. Now this policy will add a little bit more. There's 1 hour training for everybody, but in addition to that, any supervisors who actually oversee anybody that work within the council would also have to do an extra hour for supervisors. So that's an extra hour there. That's important. The council clerk would be the keeper of the policy to make sure everybody has a copy and understands and actually has a copy. She's going to disseminate it when necessary. And I'm going to go through some of the whereases on the actual resolution itself. The City of Kenner promotes civility and respectful interactions among all levels of its organization, and the City of Kenner understands that it must be in compliance with all state, federal laws with regard to harassment and/or discrimination. And whereas in 2018, the regular session, Louisiana Legislature passed Act Number 270, which enacted Louisiana Revised Statute 42-341 through 345, mandating the establishment of a uniform sexual harassment policy for all agencies. And whereas it is critical that council members and unelected council staff, so it will cover our staff as well, understand the responsibility and comply with harassment and/or discrimination laws. And whereas the council for the city of Kenner believes it's necessary to adopt an anti-harassment policy in order to give council members and unelected council staff guidelines to comply with such harassment and/or discrimination laws. And whereas it's recommendation of the council that the attached anti-harassment policy be adopted for all council members and unelected council staff for the city of Kenner. This policy is actually 4.5 pages in length, and it's attached to the resolution. And that's all I have.
Comments?
Anybody else?
Councilman Brannigan?
I thought that it was very important to have this legislation put in place and have an independent faction making the decisions in the process if we have to use this policy at any time. I will be supporting this legislation.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, do you wish to comment at all? Hello?
It was a pleasure working with the council members that I worked with and the outside council in drafting this one. I also assisted with the drafting of the other one, which is 12A. But it was a pleasure working with the council members, and we still have more work to do to come up with an implementation policy or implementation procedure after you all pass the policy. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Sala, if you can, I'd just like you to just mention,
Oh, there we go.
if you can just mention or comment,
Thank you.
since we're at an open hearing on this matter, can you mention the retroactivity effect of this?
We cannot, due to due process rights, nobody can be retroactively affected by any of these policies because of constitutional due rights. Nobody can be charged or be accused of doing something that they did not know was against the law. So none of these policies, if it's any of them are passed tonight, would apply to any sexual harassment or any harassment policy that you may or may not have. So I hope that answers the question on that.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. I also think that this policy is a good policy and a better policy than what was previously presented because it has a more breadth and description in terms of the harassment. It doesn't only focus, it focuses on harassment in general, not just sexual, but of course it includes sexual harassment. I'm going to read some prohibited conduct. Harassment is defined as an unwelcome conduct, whether verbal, physical, or visual, that denigrates or shows hostility and aversion towards an individual based upon the person's actual or perceived race, gender, sex, sexual orientation, age, color, religious affiliation, national origin, physical or mental disability, ancestry, marital status, military status, unfavorable discharge from military service, order of protected status, and other legally protected status. So it covers all types of harassment, so it's actually, it's actually more inclusive in terms of prohibiting any type of harassment. So I think that this is, it's a better policy, and it actually focuses both on sexual harassment and then other harassment. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank you, Attorney Sally, for your support, and everybody on the council here supporting this. And in the original one, 12A, that Councilman Segura submitted, I think was a good policy. But I think, as Attorney Sala said, this is a process that we are going to be dealing with to make it as best as we can, and as things change. I think that was the goal with the new radiation of this policy, It is meant to ensure that it is fair to everyone on the council, all of our staff, and everybody else that's involved with it, and to ensure that no one could have the opportunity for us as council and the council to follow, to attack someone unlawfully or vigilantly, or to try to do something out of spite. I think this puts it in the hands of someone outside of the city of Kenner to assess and to make sure. I don't, you know, we had some discussions before about holding back and revisiting it. I think it's always good if you get an opportunity to revisit something and try to make it better, and we will make it better going on. There were some individuals that wanted to say that we were holding it back because we wanted to protect someone or do this or do that. No, we were doing it because we felt that we wanted to add more to it. Everybody up here has someone in their family that obviously they would not want anything to happen to, but we also have individuals that we want to make sure everyone is given the due process that they deserve. So for people to think that we were stonewalling on this, that was not the case. We as a council, it's our due diligence to always to do the best that we can and to make things better. And if the council doesn't do that, or the administration, then we're really not doing our job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Who?
Councilman Brannigan, you said you had one more comment.
Ms. Sala, I just want to thank you for working with us on this and bringing in the expert sexual harassment attorney to talk with us, and also looking at the different policies that we looked at from different cities and municipalities. And there was a lot of work done on this, and we appreciate your assistance in getting this thing drafted in this fashion.
It was my pleasure, and I hope to continue to work with you implementing this.
Councilman Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think everybody, though, should recognize we're not going back. We are involved right now in a matter involving sexual harassment, so we'll probably be looking at a lawsuit that will be filed. So I think everybody needs to look at that.
Thank you. Councilman Wilmot?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of people have worked on this issue, whether it's this particular policy or a prior one. And I know Councilman Segura had worked on one and put a lot of time into it, and I'm sure he did a good job on it. This one as well. I think we had a lot of people on the council that got involved, and I think that it just shows that it's that important. So everybody tried to put their part in to make it happen. So I appreciate that. And of course, the city attorney, excellent job. Excellent. She just went beyond, I know my phone rang numerous times on this issue, and I feel like we did a thorough job. So I just wanted to thank everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Morella? Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Councilman Segura, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, on this, the new policy that's been in front of us now and compared to the one I presented, they're very similar, obviously. The intent was always there to prevent any form of harassment inside of our city workforce. The administration had brought it to our attention in January of this year of obviously a problem with the fact that the city policy did not address any issue or allegation against a council member, and that we should take some action. Nobody seemed to be taking any action, so I reached out to the city attorney and initially started discussions with her. Ms. Sala, was the outside attorney that we spoke to the same as the one? Okay.
Yes, yes,
So just
sir.
want to make clear,
Yes, same expert.
during the time of my preparing a policy with our city attorney and outside attorney, that is the same attorney. So that's why I know the policies in wording are going to be very similar because of the recommendations that were provided by the outside attorney. Just a minor point, Councilman Wilmot, you said yours is 7 pages, mine was 10 pages, so I don't know if that makes it worse or better. So, but with that, I do have one minor concern in this new policy, where it says, and I'm not against this, but I'm just saying what it says. It says that the city attorney has a responsibility of referring the complaint to an independent law firm / investigator. Well, that same language was in my policy also, that the Human Resource Department, which would have been the one that a complaint went to, would do the same. So let's not cloud it up and say that it was going to be an internal investigation. It was always intended on both policies to be an external with the proper attorney doing that. But now the only concern that I have is then when I read further on, it goes on and says that all council members, council staff complaints shall be handled by an independent law firm of the council's choosing. Well, folks, does that sound a little strange that if we're the one being accused, we're going to appoint who investigates us? So that's my concern with this language and this policy. I just would love to have seen it clearer that this council takes no participation in an investigation, that it is done by an adequate law firm outside, independent, to do the work of what is needed to determine whatever the allegation is. Is it factual? Is it credible? Is it a problem? But if we as the council have to choose who does that, I'm not sure that happens. So that's just my concern with just the policy and the language that I see in it. And there's a sentence that says any egregious or overly criminal acts may be referred to the Kenner Police Department. Why is it not will be referred to the Kenner Police Department? Obviously, if it's an egregious or overly criminal act, it has to go to law enforcement immediately for their actions. So it should not say may, it should say will or shall. So basically, that's my, I don't have a problem with this policy. Like I said, the languages in all the sentences are going to be real close together. The definitions of what harassment is are right word for word. The process of how to handle it is just a little bit different. Mine was going to go through our city human resource, who would then farm it out to a outside law firm. This one says the city attorney. No big deal. I don't have a problem with that. But like I said, I do not like the council taking part in choosing who that investigative lawyer will be. So with that, that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 50 years. I agree, Councilman Segura. The council should not have any say over who the investigator is going to be. One other thing I have a concern with, you're going to bring in an outside attorney. This is a professional service contract. Unless this is going to be $100,000 or more, then this is going to be the mayor who's going to award a contract to an outside attorney. So I think we need to know, the taxpayers need to know what an outside attorney is going to cost us, and whether or not it's going to be the mayor. And as everybody knows, professional service contracts don't fall under the open bid laws, which I don't agree with. I think all contracts that we pay for should fall under the open bid laws. But anyway, that's the concerns I have. Can anybody give just any kind of estimate as to what it would cost to bring in this outside attorney, whether or not it's going to be the mayor or the council is going to have to vote on the expenditure?
According to the policy,
Ms. Sala?
as to cost for attorneys, because we're government, it would be based on the AG, the Attorney General rates, and they would probably have to hire an investigator. Again, it will be within that contract, and the city has to approve subcontractors. And again, I'm talking in hypotheticals, and and one of the things that I had spoken regarding this policy, just suggesting, is that maybe we do an RFP, and if it's up to the council, we do an RFP and request firm proposals so that law firms can apply, and then the council can get involved if they want in the process of picking a law firm. And in saying that, normally the administration would do that, would pick the law firms based on applications, but because this is a council law firm, independent, we attorneys, I'm independent. I'm a barred attorney. No matter what the mayor says or the council says, I know my duties. So any law firm who's going to take this on will not take direction from their client. They will do a job, their independent job, like the law firm we currently have. So I don't think there's any problem with the process, and I'm answering one of the concerns that Councilman Segura has. I think the process is fair if they get applications so they can make sure that the law firm that does deal with harassment issues specializes in harassment issues, because not all attorneys specialize with government ethics and like the ones we have now. So I think it's a good process for them to pick an independent body, but more importantly, those of us internally, when it comes to the administration's harassment, we handle them in-house. But because it's elected officials, and probably also with the mayor, we would give it to outside counsel anyway, like other parishes do regarding elected officials. So it's not unusual for that to happen. And again, anything this body does, it would be open to the public, and you'd get to see what is spent and all that. So right now, they're just putting a policy in place. The next step would be to implement that policy, and they might do a committee or something else to move this policy along, and of course, it'll be a public matter for you all to see how this happens, as in getting this policy in place.
Thank you, Ms. Sally, but my concern still remains the same. It's a no-bid contract, and if it's under $100,000, the mayor gets to award that contract to anyone he wants.
If the council wants, they can pick whoever they want, and it could be done by resolution if they want, and it could be more than $100,000, and it goes in front of the council, which means you all get to see it.
Well,
And
if
again,
is,
it might
they
be
have-
for a year or two, depending on the term of whenever they want that to happen. But again, right now, they're just picking a policy, one step at a time, and I understand your concerns.
If it is $100,000 or more, they have to appropriate the money. They have to vote on it. That's the procedure that's in place.
Yes.
With our rules and regulations.
Yes.
If it's under $100,000, it lies with the mayor. Now, they can pass a resolution, and they can mutually agree. But if it's under $100,000, it lies strictly with the mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Greg Taft, 3720 West Loyola Drive. I just have a couple comments I would like to make about this.
A
Number
little louder,
one,
please, Mr. Taft. Just a little louder, please.
Get closer to the mic.
is that better? Okay. One of the problems that I do have is, why are we doing this, one, as a resolution instead of as an ordinance? Because a resolution is not law. You're not making a law with a resolution. To me, the sexual harassment policy, if you want to call it a policy, should also be considered the law that the council is going to be abided by. In order to control sexual harassment of an employee or an underemployee. The other thing that I just want to bring out, I know it can't go retroactive, because y'all already done a good job covering it up when it happened in the first place. And I congratulate y'all for that, because it was a
Mr.
good
Taft,
job. No,
No.
It
Sir,
could have been brought
You
up.
can't accuse us of covering something up. There was no policy in
Because-
place.
whether there was a policy in place or not, steps could have been taken, and they weren't. That's why I call it a cover-up. You can term it any way you want to. My only problem is, you already did it, it's over with, and hopefully, God above will deal with it when time comes. That's going to happen. And hopefully the employee will be okay and get over it. But again, I want to emphasize, this should not be a resolution. It should actually be an ordinance. It should be considered a law, not something that can be overrun or that you can change, or, because an ordinance takes a vote, where a resolution, y'all can change it as you wish, because it's a policy. Policies can be changed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Sala?
Hi, Mr. Tuft. Mr. Tuft, can I answer your question, please? Hi, how are you?
I was doing fine till tonight. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to answer your question as to why it could be a resolution. Under the charter, unless it's there's some enumerated things in it, that law and all sorts of other things regarding movables and certain things that has to be done by ordinance, this is a policy. It is not, according to the charter, it doesn't fit under that rule as to things that need to be done by ordinance. Therefore, it can be done by resolution too. The layover is still the same, even if they adopt this ordinance or this resolution today. There's still the layovers and all the other things in the publishings that still has to happen with an ordinance. It still happens with a resolution. So this does not violate the charter. And again, the charter does not mandate that this policy, not a rule, has to be done, or law. It's not even a law, it's a policy. It doesn't have to be done by ordinance.
So, but what has more credence?
I can't hear you, sir.
What has more credence, a resolution or an ordinance?
Again, the charter mandates certain things and requires certain things has to be done by ordinance, according to certain things, like immovable property or certain types of contracts. Creating a law that actually puts someone in jail or asks for fines and fees. This is just a policy. It's almost like a council rule, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Not a law, but a policy. And again, as I said, it does not fit the wording in the charter.
No, and I appreciate what you're saying.
Thank you.
And I'm not an attorney. I'm just a little guy out here in the world, a citizen. But I also know that sexual harassment, there is a law. It is part of the federal law, not a policy. And it should not be watered down as just a policy. It should be
If I
a
may
law.
correct you, and I don't mean to interrupt you, under this state law, it says that public bodies shall create a policy. They are creating a policy. There is state law, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Tuff, but that state law mandates that the public bodies create a sexual harassment policy. That's what they're doing today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sala. Madam Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Name and address for the record.
Brian Miller, 2100 Block, Indiana, District 2. My question would be to the attorney. Sitting here listening, I know the council meeting where y'all were tabling it, I was in agreement, table it, go through, get the right legal information. Sitting here listening to it's a law, it's a policy. There is a law in place about sexual harassment, correct? So the council had to follow that law under sexual harassment before they even put this policy in place, correct? And I guess my question is, we're sitting here saying they didn't have a policy, so they didn't know sexual harassment, but.
Employees, we all had to do
Correct.
sexual harassment training, ethics training annually.
Correct.
And we have to report it to the state. They track us, and if we don't follow that, like, for example, I'm one of the ethics for myself and the Human Resources Director and another attorney, we are one of the people who teach ethics. So every year, we send the reminders out, everyone has to do government ethics. So everyone has to follow the state law. But that state law, for us public employees, is different from having a policy in place for your
No, and I understand. I'm a former government employee. I think my question is because I don't like to use the word cover up, but hearing that and then knowing that there was some complaint somewhere, and then y'all said you can't go backwards on it. As an employee or the employee that's involved in the accusation, even without this policy, they could still, because of the law, still have a case, or because there was no policy, it's just.
I cannot answer that question. I'm not
Okay.
the attorney for who may or may not
Right, right,
have
right.
any
No, and listen, I know
accusation.
we're all open
And the
to
council
civil
or the
litigation at any
administration can't
time.
answer that. Right, right.
But I just, with the verbiage that was being used here, and it's still a law. And I'm pretty sure every one of the council, and I'm going to end it at this. Prior to you becoming a councilman, some of y'all sat in businesses or in city government where we all knew what sexual harassment was. Like you said, we go through as government employees ethics training yearly. So the policy being instituted now, to me, is, okay, you need a policy. I know what the state law says, you have to have it. But it's not like we didn't know what about the violation of sexual harassment was or is, even without this policy. So the employees should still have their right to at least a hearing of some sort, right or wrong.
I cannot comment on that. Again, I'm not the attorney for who may or may not have any accusation out there, and so I don't want to comment on a hypothetical. We're talking about the policy, and I appreciate and I hear what you're saying, but I cannot comment on it, and neither can the council nor the administration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. No further discussion. Please vote on item 13C. Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segura?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Do we have any correspondence, resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor? Seeing none. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of February 18, 2022. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Celebracion Hispana de Kenner on April 9, 2022 and April 10, 2022 at 3808 Loyola Drive, being property owned by the city of Kenner and Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2262-22, Custom Cruisers to hold a public gathering on the fourth Saturday of the month from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the months of March 2022 through October 2022 for the purpose of a car cruise night at the Esplanade Mall, 1401 West Esplanade Avenue in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3B is application number 2265-22, Divine Mercy Catholic Church to hold a public gathering on April 9, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the purpose of cook-off car show fundraiser at Divine Mercy Parking Lot in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3C is application number 2266-22, Community Church to hold a public gathering on April 16, 2022 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the purpose of a church outreach at Buddy Lawson Playground, 1800 Short Street. Item 3D is application number 2261-22, Celebracion Hispana de Kenner, to hold a public gathering on April 9, 2022 and April 10, 2022 from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the purpose of the 10th Kenner Hispanic Fest at Kenner City Park. Item 3E is application number 2267-22, Kenner Discovery to hold a public gathering on May 21, 2022 from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the purpose of a Swamp Owl Bayou Jam at Kenner Discovery Health Sciences Academy. Item 4 is acceptance, rejection of bids requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 5 is change orders requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 6 is acceptance of committee findings for final passage. We have none. And item 7 is subdivision ordinances for final passage. We have none. I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot on the consent agenda. Council members, please vote. Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segura?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 8, public hearings and final passage. Item 8A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,877. An ordinance amending the 2021-2022 operating and capital budgets to fund 2 part-time Recreation Department employees to assist at Berlino Playground and amending ordinance number 7549. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney for a 2-meeting deferral. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote on the deferral. Councilmember Carroll,
Yay.
Segur,
Yay.
Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0 to defer. Item 9 is ordinances for the sale, purchase, transfer, lease, and/or alienation of movable property. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 12,941, an ordinance adopting a sexual harassment policy for the City of Kenner's City Council. I have a motion by Councilmember Segur, seconded by Councilmember Brennan.
This is 12A?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously, Council President, can I speak?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. Well, obviously, as Council Wilmot said, we can only have one, so the other one was passed, so this would not be applicable to pass, even though the comments that I made are still, to me, applicable as to, one, the process to get it in a allegation investigated should not have council fingerprints on it, because I think that just opens us to the public to be criticized about picking an investigator to investigate something that any one of us is alleged to have done is presumably a problem. So with that, my comments. The other that I didn't mention earlier, if you may, was in the training that's required by the state ethics on the sexual harassment. It has also been required that supervisors receive an additional training. Each one of us as a council member has an employee that we hire, so we are their supervisor. We have always been responsible for taking that training. I've taken mine every year. I just hope everyone else has. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
On the motion to approve? Is that what?
See no discussion.
We're defer.
Motion to approve. Councilmember Segur?
You would-
I think there's a,
excuse me.
I know there's a conflict here. We can't approve this, is what,
I would need an additional motion from someone
Either
to,
defer it or
yes, sir.
definitely defer it or.
Yes, sir.
Move to indefinitely defer.
Motion by Councilmember McKinney to indefinitely defer, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan to indefinitely defer item 12A. Council members, please vote on indefinite deferral. Councilman Segur?
yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yes.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0 to indefinitely defer. Item 12B is summary ordinance number 12,948, an ordinance creating a procedure for the handling of additional time during declared emergencies by the mayor or the city council. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney.
Yes, Councilman Wilmot?
Yeah, this is the same legislation we had at last meeting. It deals with an ordinance creating the procedure for handling of additional time during emergencies by the mayor or the city council. Currently, there is a mayor's policy in place from 2002 that provides for pay when the city is closed. But for the past IDA that we had, the policy was apparently not followed. The council now seeks to create some oversight to ensure that taxpayer dollars are wisely spent. We need to eliminate the perception of fraud, waste, or possible abuse. We need a policy that will be beyond reproach. We as a council have a duty and responsibility to protect our taxpayer dollars. At our last meeting, we had heard 12B, and we had several amendments pending. So it's this same legislation. We had several amendments pending, and we actually deferred it one meeting. So the original legislation is up tonight, and it basically includes what was had in the 2002 mayor's policy, which allows the additional time when the city is closed due to an emergency. It also places a 5-day limitation unless additional time is granted by the council. no more than 24 hours are allowed in a given day. And then it also exempts fire and police. We then were considering an amendment at that time, and then we actually had it deferred for one meeting. So you can see that I would hope that everybody has a document that has yellow highlights on it. Those are the amendments that are going to be requested for today. And it goes through, it's quite several changes are in place. But I'm going to hit the major ones. We're going to change it from 5 days, and the reason behind that is 5 days, what happens if you have a storm, say if you have an Ida hit, and then you have 5 days, which is the original legislation. We may not be able to have a council meeting within 5 days, and pay might be necessary. So in that case, we feel that 15 days is going to be a better suited period of time. Or upon the convening of the next council meeting, whichever is the longest period of time. We have to have something in place that's workable. So 5 days is, obviously, I guess it's too short, so we need to extend it. At least that's the amendment. And also, we have to account for any layovers. So that's what Section 4, which is highlighted, we need to account for those layovers in case there's an additional time frame that's needed there. In addition, we had added civil service employees being exempt. So that's Section 5. That's the major changes.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments? Councilman Segura?
Yeah, but as I recall from that last meeting where we really got into the big discussion was the other comment, or the other comments to an amendment on the wording of cutting off, or I'm not sure how to say, the 24-hour in a day. We had a big discussion on the difference between working and pay. And as I recall, the problem was, which I still understand is a concern, is if someone is paid over 24 hours in a day, but they never actually worked more than 24, it's just the mathematics of taking the number of hours they worked, if in this case, if say they worked 18 hours, and then have their 7-hour required extra pay because of them being essential and being called out to work. And then when you do the math, it comes up to more than 24. I don't know that we resolved that at that meeting, and that was part of the hang-up for us to get to, and I don't see where that's been addressed here yet, so.
If I can respond.
Sure.
Thank you. And you're quite right, Councilman Segur. It is the 24-hour period I did not mention just now, and it is still a part of the original legislation, and the amendment does not address it, so it would stay the 24 hours. So I apologize for not mentioning that. I should have, and you're quite right. Thank you for pointing it out, and it may need to be addressed now. I agree. If somebody has an issue with it, this is the time to speak out during this legislation. So
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, well, and I'm just going to start the conversation then, because as I recall, is Mr. Kenny Melvin here? Mr. Melvin, could you come up, please? The question that I recall I had asked you at the last meeting on this topic was, how do you handle your workforce if this 24-hour language stays as it is, and they're working and then they're in the midst of doing a very important, needed service, and you've got to shut them down and send them home?
That's what would have to happen, I guess.
Well, that's what I think we're trying to resolve, and as I don't know if we ever got to the language to resolve it, is that if your employee, crew, or whatever it is doing a task that is obviously very, very needed and important, is it proper, or would it be the right thing to do to send them I mean, I think we had examples of they're cutting a tree out of a street,
Right.
and they're not finished, well, then do we leave them, we tell them, go home, and the tree don't get removed, so that street's not passable for any public service, first responders, and that creates a problem for residents. So that was one example. We could have, and I know the sewer department could be trying to reestablish the operation of the sewer plant that might have got knocked offline. And we would sure have a pretty stinky mess if we didn't get our sewer plant back online. So if those individuals at the sewer plant are working and trying to get it restored, do we say, oh, nope, stop, you got to go? Because this time issue is there. So those are just examples, though I'm just trying to reiterate the discussion that we should try to come up with some language to address that need. Now, obviously, we've already, by some other amendment or discussion of amendment, that police and fire, well, they do a very valuable service, obviously, and we don't send them home at a conclusion of a certain hour if their services are certainly valuable and needed. So we have an issue with what is more valuable or needed after the storm when it comes to getting a service or the city back up to some standard. So
I could
Any
throw another
comment?
monkey wrench in it and say, hey, let's just talk about putting a minimum time period between ending this shift and starting the next shift. If, you know, you wanted 6 or 8 hours between, you know, starting the next shift after you've worked 16 or 18 hours, whatever we, you know, at least you had to have 6 hours or 8 hours of rest before you start the next shift. You know, I don't know how to address this. That's, you know.
That's an interesting point, but again, I don't know, there's, go ahead, Councilwoman McKinney, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Melvin. I think you bring up a good point, and I think I believe that 24 hours for any individual, a lot of things come into play, safety, tiredness, and all of this. I think you as a manager or assistant director or your position, it is your responsibility to manage the workforce for a day. And within that workforce, to ensure that no one exceeds 24 hours is important for any organization. I'm sure the fire department and the police department have things built into their schedule for the firemen and policemen to ensure the safety, to ensure their good health, and all of that not to exceed 24 hours. I just believe 24 hours for one individual is a long time for anybody to work. And I think as a professional as you are, many years that you have, it is incumbent upon you to ensure that you know who you have at work, you know what you have to do for any one day. Now, the next day starts at 12:01. So if individuals are working to a certain hour at one day, as long as they don't exceed it, we start the next day, then we start over. Is that correct as it relates to hours? I mean,
As
you work.
far as payroll purposes, yes.
Yes, and that's what we're kind of talking about, payroll purposes. 24 hours is I believe, is the most anyone should do in one day. The next day, if they do 24 again, if that's required, I understand that. But I don't think we should exceed 24 hours in one day, and I believe that is why this 24-hour minimal is important to have in there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes, thank you, Council President. And thank you, Director Melvin. I have a question. So I'm not familiar with exactly how the MERT team worked, but I know during COVID, they actually had like a Team A and a Team B.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, I guess I'm thinking more of this can be taken care of having shifts, right? Like if you have and 20 employees that are, and obviously during a storm, you probably have a smaller workforce, right?
We
So,
had
right.
20 members of our
Right.
team.
Right, so like if you split that up and they work 15 hours, then you're actually having continuous coverage of, not, obviously you don't have 30 hours in a day, but you're actually working. So when someone's work stops, it's not necessarily the work doesn't stop, the work continues with the second shift of people, right? So I mean, to me, that's what I'm thinking. So to limit those hours, so if people are there, they're actually continuously working, which will actually, you know, I mean, I worked in a nuclear plant and they actually had work going 24 hours a day, right? But nobody was actually working 12 hours or 24 hours a day. They were working 12-hour shifts for, you know, either 12-hour, 14-hour shifts. And I would think that the police and, you know, nurses and firefighters, they kind of do the same thing. So I guess in terms of that, and especially in a high-stress situation like a hurricane, or you don't want people that are working, you know, working 16, 17 hours and then that are getting overstressed and only have, you know, a couple of hours in between to be working, because that's stressful for them, because also if their homes or have damage or anything like that, you know, you're not giving them adequate time in the disaster to deal with their own personal issues, right? So I guess to me, it's a quality of life issue for the employees as well. So I guess, you know, thinking that way, and I know we obviously, the citizens want us to be working and getting, you know, removing that stuff. So I guess if you can answer that question, do you normally split up, or, I mean, if that's possible, hopefully this will never happen again, right?
Well, yes, I'm praying that we never have another instance.
But,
that we
I
have to
mean,
deal with.
Probably
yeah.
good chance.
Well, you know, last time we said we didn't want to storm on my birthday, so I'm not, you know, hoping for anything,
get
so.
it.
You caused that problem?
His birthday is August 29th too. So.
Yes. As far as splitting shifts, we only have 20 members, so that would leave us 10 and 10. Now, there would be some overlap period, but we try to have like 4 5-man teams or 5 4-man teams, depending on, you know, who's driving equipment and saws or whatever have you, you know, dump trucks or whatever. So that could be a logistics thing with splitting people up, not having as many people available at one time. Could be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Hayes?
Sir, how many, we're talking theory here. I'd like to talk actual numbers. How many authorized positions do you have in your department?
Oh,
Authorized.
I don't know how many I have. I know how many openings I have right now.
How many?
30.
You have 30 openings right now.
Well, in the entire field services, yes.
And how many do you have working?
I think it's 47 or 48.
If you had all 30 positions filled that you have open right now, would you still need additional people?
Yeah, so we definitely need, you know, I'm looking at probably another 60 people I would like to hire in the next few years. That's, you know, that's getting back to 2009 numbers, or 2008.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Brannigan?
The civil service employees are working 18 hours a day?
We could. We can work 16, 18 hours a day in this type of event, and that's going to always depend on the severity of the storm.
Did
But-
they in
Yes.
Ida?
Yes,
They did.
yes.
Councilman?
Well, and with that, I just want to try to simplify, I guess, maybe and clarify. If whoever works 18 hours a day, that's the first few days, you're putting them all out there trying to get things quickly restored, and they put in 18 hours. Are they also entitled to that additional 7 hours because they're an essential worker working out in the?
Absolutely.
So now when you add 7 and 18, how many hours do you get?
Well, yeah, you're exceeding the 24.
And that's what this is about. It's a pay unit discussion. These employees are not working 24 hours or more. They're working at perhaps 18 hours.
Yes.
Then they're getting their break, but it's only when we add in that extra 7 hours because as essential workers and they're out working and our non-essentials are at home and just getting their 7 hours, we should in all likelihood need to pay those workers who are essential working that additional pay. Now, that's where the problem comes in when they have to work an 18-hour day, then go take a rest, and we add in that 7 hours. So that's.
And I completely understand how that looks. There's not 25 hours in a day, there's 24, but that's not actual work being done. That's 18 hours of actual work.
Wanted to clarify that, because I know Councilman Carroll was saying no more than 24 hours. I understand that, but they're not working 24 hours, they're working 18. It's just the pay hour gets tabulated together to get to that 25.
Right, and in the beginning, obviously, our goal is to clear the streets for emergency purposes as fast as possible. Ambulance, policeman, fire. If we can do that quickly, then of course we lower the hours that we actually work.
Okay. Ms. Herring, how does, in your discussions with FEMA, how do they address that when you say we want reimbursement or something for 25 hours?
Yeah, so it's two separate pay codes. I think the confusion comes in that they're lumped together. They're not. So someone's regular time, which is budgeted salary that FEMA does not cover, is a regular pay code 100. Then disaster time is a separate pay code that gets entered on a separate line and gets paid. That time is what we are going to request from FEMA. So I can't ask them to pay for what we already budgeted for that person's salary, but I do have to show FEMA that that person worked. So I'll show the full hours that they did during that day, and we would never submit their regular hours. It's just the disaster overtime hours.
Okay. Now, follow-up question. Holiday pay, we have, 15 mandated holidays?
Yes, sir.
On a holiday, same principle. We have non-essential who are home, they get paid. We have essential that's come to work, and they get paid an additional 7 hours.
Yes, that's correct.
And I see Mr. Hubert's there, so I'm going to pick on his department. If our sewer plant goes down on a holiday, and he's got to have workers doing what they do to keep the plant running, and they go to 18 hours, is that now a problem because they're going to get paid 25 hours?
From what I'm reading in here, it says declared emergencies, but it would be the same situation. If
Sewer
someone is
plant going
concerned,
down.
yeah, if someone's concerned that someone's getting more than 24 hours, it can definitely happen on a holiday as well.
Okay, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but if the sewer plant goes down, that's a declared emergency to me, because I know how people call right now when they can't flush.
Yeah.
Hubert Franklin, Assistant Director, Wastewater Department. I just wanted to bring to all you guys' attention that my whole department are licensed by LDH, and we oversee my EPA and DEQ. We are not allowed to let sewage hit the ground. So in case storms, if a force main breaks, if it's 20, 21 hours, we got to take care of the job. When sewage hits the ground, it's called a SSO, a sanitary sewer overflow. That's something that I had to report to the government every month. I don't think any of my guys worked over 18, 19 hours, but the 24 hours, we're not working 24 hours. When you add in the extra 8 hours of a civil service, that makes us go over the 24 hours. But when a storm hits, we have to get as many vehicles. We have to move generators. We have close to 40-something generators that have to get to 80 lift stations. We only have a small number of vehicles that can tow those generators. So on top of that, you have traffic. We got to be able to get through traffic. We got to get through down power lines. When the power starts to come back on, if the power gets on in northeast Kenner, everybody's going to want to migrate to northeast Kenner. So that means it's more generators is running in that area. So if I get a call 11, 12 o'clock at night saying, hey, we got power over here, we got to start mobilizing and getting power so the water can get back to the plant. It's not just as easy as you think. We have to go in, got to get my electrician, we have to check rotation of the pump. We got to make sure the pump is pumping in the right direction. It's dangerous. Down power lines, like we need general services and public and field services to cut down light poles. We need energy. We need everybody just helping us out so we can help the citizens of Kenner. So just wanted to let y'all know.
Oh, and thank you, because like I said, I'm sure all of us get a lot of calls when people cannot flush, and so they want to know what's going on, and we need to get that fixed quickly. I know you mentioned, about it's illegal to let sewer hit the ground. What's the fine for that?
I can't tell you exactly what the fine would be, but I know I would be personally, and Joanne would be in some big trouble.
And I don't know if in administration about it, but it seems I've heard it's like 10,000 a day. Yeah, I mean, in the past, that number of 10,000, that's why I got it, because it's been presented to me that we would be fined 10,000 a day if we allowed sewer to hit the street and go out into the drainage system and into the lake. So that's the kind of fine we would be looking at. So what we're doing is just gathering information from them. This is just a discussion. We've got to come to address this problem. It's not just a perception, it's a factual problem that we have to address on how to let workers work to get their jobs done for the restoration of city needs, and not be looked at as saying, oh, well, how are you paying more than 24 hours a day? This is how it happens. They can work 18 hours but get paid their pay for being out, so it does add up to more than 24. So that's the topic we're trying to work on. So
I agree.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I totally agree with Councilman Segura. We are talking about this just like we've talked about other things. We have to figure this out to be able to have something that, one, benefits the citizens of Kenner, but also as it relates to perception and everything else that we have to deal with in the city of Kenner. We have to deal with that as well, safety and all of that. So we will have something, but we have to discuss it, as he said. My question to you, Director, is if this is an act of God, do we get fined? If there's a tornado that blows it up and sewer's on the ground, do we get fined for that? No.
I would believe so.
You think if an act of God, it's not our fault, we get fined if we don't clean it up, but we don't get fined because we caused it.
We could. It's a possibility. I can't speak for DEQ or EPA. You know.
No, I'm not asking you to, but it's not like it's a foregone conclusion that if this is an act of God, we will get fined. You can't say that either.
I can't say that.
Let me just say this. We could.
We could.
But most importantly, how do our residents feel about it?
I
As it's spilling into the streets, we got to look at the reality of it also. So there's two things here. We could, not for sure, but we could, but we also have to deal with the filth in the streets.
Yeah, and
So
I agree with you 100%.
That's the reality.
If at 12 o'clock at night everybody's sleeping and it blow up, it is not our fault that happened. If we don't do anything, then of course we're going to get fined. So at that point, yes, we have to address that to clean that up for the citizens.
Right.
All I'm saying is I find it hard to believe that they would fine us for an act of God. I just have a hard time believing that. Now, if we don't respond to it, it's going to be God and every citizen in the city of Kenner responding to us. So yes, we have to address that. So thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
I guess, Mr. President, my question is, how would we respond to it if this was in place?
All boots on the ground. I mean,
No, but how would, if you've reached that 24-hour period, how would we respond to it? I think you can't respond to it.
Yeah.
If we're following this legislation as is, unless y'all going to change some things, can you respond to it?
You can't, but like I'm letting you guys know,
You need to respond to it.
we have to respond. I'm licensed by LDH. I know you
it's
said
the
the
same-
fire department and the police department was exempt. I'm letting you know that, hey, we got to work, we have to respond.
It's the same to say, how long would it go on?
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
the severity,
I mean,
we don't know.
I think what you're telling me is you're going to respond to it no matter what.
Yeah, that's what,
Right,
no matter
okay.
what.
And I kind of agree with you. You got to respond to it. I mean, it sounds like you're going to be fined with your licensing
No.
if you didn't respond. Right, okay. Not just you and Joanne.
Councilman Brannigan?
During the last storm, how many weeks did it take where your people had to work more than 24 hours, well, not work more than 24 hours in a day? Did you have people working like 20 hours in a day, then they get paid the extra 7 hours, which would put them at 27? How many weeks was that? 1 week, 2 weeks,
Wastewater, I want to say we went 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
If the wastewater is not moving, if the water department is not, then the city won't be open. So we got to do our job so the city can get back open.
I understand, and your piece of the puzzle is a very important piece of the puzzle. Kenny, can you come back up? And I know this question's tough to do, but in your situation, working with the MERT team and getting the streets cleared, how many weeks do you think it took where the 24-hour limit would have affected you? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes, that's, if I remember correctly, it took 10 or 11 days to get the streets passable.
Okay,
100% open. Now, that's not cleaning anything, that's just,
right.
making it passable.
Okay, so 2 weeks. So if we were able to put a time frame in place that the 24-hour limitation of pay would not be in place for the first 2 weeks or for the first 4 weeks, that may be a way. Look, I'm concerned with the sewer issue because I got a guy that lives in Chateau that every time this little thing puts a little bit of stuff out in front of his house, he comes unglued, and I don't blame the man, okay? But, and you're running out there to get this cleaned up, but we can't have, toilets overflowing in houses or sewers not being moved, right after a hurricane with what people have gone through, just because we don't want to be over 24 hours. I mean, I understand the concept that, you can't be paid more than 24 hours in a day, but the employee is not working 24 hours. The employee is working 18 hours, and it just happens that they get paid 7 additional hours at that time frame. So if we came up with a time frame to be able to not have the 24-hour limit enforced, it sounds to me that 2 weeks for Kenny's teams and 4 weeks for Hubert's teams is a number that should be pretty close. Is that correct?
It could be. And of course, that's gonna depend on, look, if we have another Katrina-type storm with flooding as well as the
Yeah.
damage, then we're talking a whole different animal.
Right. And then if you need 107 employees and you got 47 right now. I mean, yeah, so.
Well, that was in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I'd like to have 160 employees if you want, if you want to get down to facts.
So we'd be getting all kinds of stuff done.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm just going to say that, obviously, this conversation is great that we're having. And, with the information that Councilman Brandon gave, maybe we need to put some type of, because my main concern is the 24 hours of work, not that 8 hours that we have to add that exceeds it. Because that seems to be what's going on with our conversation with me. My concern is someone physically working more than 24 hours.
That's not happening.
Exactly, that's a concern.
I'm not letting that happen.
Right.
Unless we have a severe emergency, but as far
Right.
as working 24 hours, that's not gonna happen.
And part of what we're doing is also that after a certain length of time that it comes to the council. I think if we factor in all of those things, even if it exceeds whatever we come up with, like Councilman Brannigan says, if it comes to the council again, because suppose something is worse than Katrina, then if it comes to the council, then we understand, after seeing yourself and the director, Franklin, that, hey, this is what's going on, and we are going to need additional time to do this. That then, everybody knows what's going on. It's just not happening. I think that will help as well as we work towards getting a defined hours that doesn't exceed a person physically working 24 hours, while they can also receive their pay that they are entitled to. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Segura?
Okay, at this point, I know, this was the point of having a discussion, the need for having a discussion, and I think we've pretty much yes, thank you. We drew out the need for something. I would like to, with the help of city attorney, my intent would be to offer, and I don't know to say it's a motion or to amend, because I don't think we've even approved these amendments yet.
They've not been approved yet.
Okay, well then, I guess on section 2, I know it's in a whereas also, but the section 2 that says, of this ordinance shall be for a limited duration of 15 days or upon the convening of a next council meeting. I would should put out that we change that to 30 days, but keep the rest the same, and that allows the council time to intercede in between that 30 days to monitor these special conditions that we could then either say, no, it's time to cut it off, or let it keep going. So how do I,
So first, Councilman Wilmot's amendments are on the floor.
No,
And I
ma'am.
guess unless,
No, ma'am, I don't have anything on the floor right now.
I mean, these proposed, he's the
it's
author,
just
not
something
yet.
for us to read. Nothing has been on the floor.
So I guess the first question is, these, are you, Councilman Wilmot, are you offering up these amendments that we talked about earlier?
Can you please talk into the mic?
Are you offering up these amendments?
I can't hear you in the back.
Are you offering up these
Well,
amendments?
I'm gonna offer them up, but if Councilman Segura has, well, just to make it for procedural purposes, I think it's best that we do that. We need to get some procedure in place, so we can actually work from it. We have several different changes here, and a lot of them are necessary. And then once we adopt those, then we can come back and make any other changes that we need to do.
That
such
sounds
as
the way
what-
to make it clean, so.
Okay, can I,
Say that again,
That
Sal?
sounds an easier way, and it makes it clean for, so,
Well-
Ms. Council Clerk, is there any way to read the amendments as in the highlighted paperwork first?
okay.
No.
Hold on one second, please, Council Clerk.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Council President. Well, as I said, I agree, these were something that we were given to read as the potential amendment. They're not on the floor just yet, which we could move forward to that. I'm just asking Councilman Wilmot to consider that we've moved the 15-day to 30-day as part of his amendment. Then we can just globally vote on all of those amendments and reach the same thing in a clean fashion.
And if we do the 30 days, then I would presume that Section 4 would not be necessary.
It's up to you.
So we'd eliminate Section 4 if we change it to 30 days.
And I'm
Because
not,
that's what that does. That actually makes it a longer duration because it allows for layovers and so forth.
okay, but let me just help you. I'm not sure, because if at the end of 30 days, we're still in this recovery, we may then need that section to allow it to go past 30 days. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we need to take it out. It still has a valid point. It's just at the end of the 30 days now is when we can continue it by council.
So let me understand what you're suggesting, Councilman Segura, that you would just substitute the 15 days for 30 days?
Yes.
And leave the rest of it?
Leave everything else the same.
Ms. Solly, you think that,
It's up to Councilman Wilmot.
No, I know,
If
but-
Councilman Wilmot agrees that that is something he wants to do,
just my question is that, I mean, we could do that and you feel we're still good.
right. I mean, but I guess the question that seems to be out there is whether Section 4 remains or not.
Well, okay.
Does Section 4
All
remain?
I'm asking Councilman Wilmot to consider is 15 to 30. Everything else stays the same.
Okay.
Section 4
Councilman
stays.
Wilmot?
I think that's fine. We can go ahead and do that, but at the same time, I'd wonder Section 4 if there's a need for it, because if we're extending the 15 to 30, I don't know that we need to have a layover period or not.
Well, maybe I'm reading it wrong. I interpreted this to mean that at the end of the 15 days, we could approve an extension of additional time for those wages. So all we're doing is changing it to 30 days now.
That would be correct, but
But if we needed more than 30, it's allowing it.
it's allowing more than
Yeah,
30. is what
after
that's
we
doing.
come back together and look at it, right. So that's all I'm asking, for the change 15 to 30, and then everything else stays in place, and we can,
I think that's fine. Well, should we, let's vote on that separately. I think that if we're going to do that, I think everybody needs to vote on it, unless
Madam Clerk?
Okay, I need a point of clarification. So do you want to put your amendment on the floor, sir?
yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded.
But wait, I'm sorry.
wait, hold up.
Yeah, I think we need to put
The 30 days,
The 30
15 change to
days.
30?
What's the amendment?
Well, the amendment's going to be what he had already
yellow.
agreed in yellow.
In yellow.
But if he'll agree to change the 15 to 30,
Okay.
then that becomes his amendment for us to vote on.
That is correct.
And, correct? Thank you. So that's all I'm asking, then everything else stays the same, and we come, in number 4, it's still applicable because it says at the end of 30 days, we can say if we need to go past that, we decide that and move forward. The same as we had done at 15 days.
And my concern is I'm wondering how this body will react with changing it from 15 to 30. And if we do that, then we probably should.
Well, if you will agree to change it to 30, and if they vote against it, then it has to come back up at perhaps the 15.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, Councilman Wilmot, let me clarify, please. We're changing your proposed amendment that you've submitted to the clerk from 15 days to 30, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. On the amendment, let me read the amendment into the record so everyone is very clear on what we are voting on. In the second whereas, it will read, whereas the administrative emergency pay policy in place effective November 12, 2002 indicates that such additional wages may be paid by the city when it closed due to the declared emergency. The next whereas will read, whereas the administrative emergency pay policy may be misapplied, and whereas the Kenner City Council desires that these emergency wages be more limited in their duration and amounts. And whereas the Kenner City Council desires that the sum of the regular time and the additional time not to exceed 24 hours in a day. Whereas oversight by the Kenner City Council should be applied to emergency wages provided for any period of time longer than 30 days in duration or upon the convening of the next city council meeting or whichever is the longest period of time. And whereas the wages of all city civil service employees, the Kenner Fire Department and the Kenner Police Department are to be exempt from this ordinance. And whereas the mayor for the city of Kenner shall carry out the policy direction of the council. Section 1 will read, wages paid to non-civil service directors and other non-civil civil service employees who work when the city is closed due to a declared emergency by the mayor or by the city council shall be calculated as follows. Non-civil service employees. It will be added in the beginning of that next paragraph. Section 2 will read as follows. Any additional wages paid to directors or other employees as set forth in Section 1 of this ordinance shall be for the limited duration of 30 days or upon the convening of the next city council meeting or whichever is the longest period of time. Section 5 will be now numbered Section 4 and will read, the Kenner City Council may approve an extension of additional wages paid pursuant to Section 1 for a specific declared emergency event by ordinance, When an ordinance is proposed regarding additional wages for a declared emergency, any additional wages being paid pursuant to Section 1 when the ordinance is introduced shall continue through the duration of any applicable layover period for the proposed ordinance and until the council adopts or rejects such proposed ordinance. Section 5 will read that the wages of all city civil service employees, the Kenner Fire Department, and the Kenner Police Department are hereby exempt from this ordinance. That will conclude the amendment. And that motion was by Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Council Clerk, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
For Section 3, we need to add in that it was not, Councilman Wilmot, that added in that in no event shall a director or any other employee be paid as set forth in Section 1 of this ordinance for more than 24 hours in a day. But this section does not apply for the first 2 weeks,
30 days.
the first 30 days.
That way it coincides with the Section 2.
However, the first 30 days shall be exempt from this section. Maybe it's a section. However,
I would need that writing so I can read it into the record, please.
this should not apply. This rule shall not apply to the first 30 days. You really like my chicken scratch? However, this rule shall apply to the first 30 days. It's going to go after this first sentence, before the example. So it's
However, this rule shall
not apply to the first 30 days. He said first 30 days. All right. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Correct.
We could stop. Good point, right? Yeah. We could stop. I think we're
Discussion, clerk, you good with the amendment now?
Yes, sir. If I could please clarify how Section 3 will read. Section 3 will read, "In no event shall a director or other employee be paid as set forth in Section 1 of this ordinance for more than 24 hours in a day. However, this rule shall not apply to the first 30 days. For example, when regular time and additional time are added together, the sum thereof shall not exceed 24 hours in a day."
Okay, thank you.
Apologize, Council President. I was just going to make a quick suggestion about that last that, for example, after the first 30 days, when regular time and additional time are added together, the sum therefore shall not exceed 24 hours a day. So just, if the last sentence, after the first 30 days, so for example, after the last 30 days, when regular time, just making it clear again that it's after the 30 days that applies.
You okay?
No.
And
No,
can
maybe you could read Section 3, because
Can I add this first? So is Section 3 not contradictory to, when it says, "or other employee," contradictory to what we say about exempting the Kenner Police, Kenner Fire Department, and all civil servants back in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the seventh whereas?
Well, if I can.
Now it looks like Kenner Police, Kenner Fire, and civil servants are affected.
Mr. Mayor, Section 5 says, now, the wages of all city civil service employees, for them to vote on, the Kenner Fire Department and the Kenner Police Department are hereby exempt from this ordinance.
But why does it say, "or other employee"? Shouldn't "or other employee" be taken out?
I think they're saying non-directors?
It doesn't say that. I'm just, look.
Okay, got it.
I think it's
Or-
contradictory to the ordinance of affecting the Kenner Police and Kenner Fire Department. Let me just say this, not this whole council is going to be here in the future. So if another council interprets this differently, that could affect the Kenner Police, Kenner Fire, and the civil servants.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Mayor, but I don't
I mean,
see it that way.
why have it? Why have it, though? I mean, I just think that should be taken out.
Ms. Sala, what's your?
Councilman Wilmot, I didn't draft this originally, I just helped the councilman clean with some of the exemptions, so it's up to, I was going to direct it to Councilman Wilmot if he would like that taken out, if you agree.
I'm looking at Section 5, and in particular, is that what we're talking about, Mayor?
No, the mayor's talking about Section 3, I believe.
Section 3, which is very clear. In no event shall a director or other employee be paid. But then it comes back, it's set forth, Kenner Police, Kenner Fire, and civil servants being taken out. This kind of puts everybody back in, and then they get taken out again. So I'm just saying, this is not the same council the city will be looking at on July 1st. So if another council person that comes in sees something differently, that could be a problem to our firemen, our policemen, and our civil servants. That's just my interpretation. It could be argued.
Do you have any suggestions, Ms. Sala?
Take it out.
On how to correct it?
I would just, if anyone agrees with the mayor, I was just going to say we could just put in there that same line that's in Section 5, that wages of all city employees, civil service employees of Kenner Fire Department and Kenner Police Department are hereby exempt from this and
That'll
all other clauses. So,
That'll work.
okay. Ms. Natalie, I'm sorry, Ms.
Thank you,
Council
Mayor.
Clerk, sorry. Do you want me to read? Section 3, from what I understand, will read, in no event shall a, oh, I'm sorry,
No, that's
Council
okay.
President.
Go ahead, read it, and let me.
I'm sorry, Council
No,
President.
read it. I want to hear what you have to say first.
Okay. I was going to read, okay, what I'm understanding the proposed amendments shall read for Section 3. In no event shall a director or other employee be paid as set forth in Section 1 of this ordinance for more than 24 hours. However, the first 30 days shall not apply, Ms. Council Clerk?
Wait, what?
However, the second line is, however, the first 30 days shall not apply. That's what I gave you before?
However, this rule shall not apply to the first 30 days.
Nor should it apply to all city civil service employees, the Kenner Fire Department, and the Kenner Police Department. I think that would clean it up. Ms. Natalie, I'm sorry, Ms. Council Clerk?
Yes, ma'am. If you could please just give me that in writing.
Okay, read that first part again. I gave you my handwritten part. The second sentence, however,
In no event shall a director or other employee be paid as set forth in Section 1 of this ordinance for more than 24 hours in a day. However, this rule shall not apply to the first 30 days.
nor shall it apply to all city civil service employees, comma, the Kenner Fire Department, comma, and Kenner Police Department. And then Section 5, I believe, is a catch-all for the whole ordinance, saying that the wages of all city civil service employees and the Kenner Fire Department and Kenner Police Department directors and employees are hereby exempt from this ordinance. So I believe it's a catch-all for the whole ordinance.
Councilman Brannigan.
Okay, so in Section 3, it says this should not apply for the first 30 days. So does that take care of the sewer department and the MERT teams to be able to work more than 24 hours or be paid, not work more than 24 hours, be paid for more than 24 hours in a day for the first 30 days?
That's certainly the intent.
Yeah.
So if the
Okay.
language is good with the city attorney, that's the intent.
Ms. Sala.
I was going to say that we have to mirror what we put in Section 3. It has to mirror that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth whereas. Because the fifth whereas just still says not exceed 24 hours, and want to make sure it clarifies what we just put in there, Ms. Natalie, for Section 3, to make it clear the first 30 days does not apply, and it does not apply to civil service members, fire, or police.
So we have to change that whereas to say?
Yes, yes, sir.
For it will not exceed 24 hours in a day, except for the first 30 days? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes. So the
Correct.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth whereas, no, 6. Oh, yes, the fifth one, I'm
Fifth,
sorry.
fifth.
Fifth, sorry.
Whereas the Kenner City Council desires that the sum of the regular time and any additional time not exceed 24 hours in a day.
After the first 30 days. After the first 30 days after declared emergency.
After the first 30 days, what?
Of a declared emergency.
Of a declared emergency.
Council.
Well, I was going to say, once she's finished with her language, I just want to make a comment on the amendment.
Once again, the fifth whereas will read, whereas the Kenner City Council desires that the sum.
Into your mic, please.
The fifth whereas will read, whereas the Kenner City Council desires that the sum of the regular time and any additional time not exceed 24 hours in a day after the first 30 days of a declared emergency.
So that fixes the first 30 days. So we wouldn't have sewage in the streets and trees in the streets.
Well, I think what it's hoping, intent is, for that first 30 days, our city employees can work, pay-wise may go over 24 hours.
Right.
They're not working more than 24, they're just going
Right,
to
they
get paid more.
right, if they work 18, they paid for 25. They work 20, they're paid for 27.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that just does that, and then my comment would be is, as we say in Section 2, anytime during that 30 days, if we as the council hold a council meeting, we can make an adjustment if we need to pull it back. Let's say the event didn't last 30 days, and we want to pull it back. We would do that at the council meeting that's set up in Section 2. Just ask-
No,
Okay. You
I'm-
appreciate that?
I'm good with
Okay,
that.
good. That was just a comment Tom and I were talking about.
Tom, are you go with it?
What he referred to is, that I have a question for the clerk.
Yes, sir.
The 6 whereas, it refers to a time period 15 days. Has that been changed to 30?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
30.
Yes. Mrs.
Just
Casaro read
verifying.
that. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Any
Any,
other discussion?
any further discussion on the amendment? No? Seeing none? Council members, please vote on the amendment as the clerk and the attorney has read into the record. Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan.
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll,
Yay.
Segur.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0 to amend. Back to your original motion as amended.
Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 50 years. We're here. I don't think this ordinance is going to do what it was designed to do, simply because, like so many other ones we have on the books for decades, are not enforced. I think what this is going to do is just open the door for more of the same on a wider scale down here. We're here and having all this discussion and having all this negative press simply because there's a juggling act going on down here. You're juggling, and it's a stressful thing. I can sympathize with whoever's doing this. There's a juggling act going on. You're trying to cater to the special interests, and you're trying to cater to the establishment. And then you're trying to do what's right by the people of Kenner. You can't do both. You got to do either one of the two. This juggling act has to stop. Now, the fundamental requirements that come with this job, and I don't care whether you're an elected official, I don't care whether you're a non-elected official, I don't care. You work for us, this is the three requirements. To deliver honest services and good government, to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and to represent the best interests of the people. Primarily in your district if you're a district councilman. Now, when it comes to this, everybody should be on the same page to make sure nothing like this happens. This is ridiculous. You got people turning in their own time on 2 payrolls at the same time. It's not just here. There's an article in the paper today. It's going on in Baton Rouge as well. It's all over the place. Somebody please take a leadership role down here and put this thing to an end and do what you're supposed to do. Do what's required of you as an elected official. Anybody got any comments, any questions? And I just talk loud. I'm not yelling, I'm talking loud.
Councilman Brannigan.
Well, I think if you look at what just transacted, we did what we were supposed to do. We worked with the administration, and we're taking care of the residents of the city of Kenner by doing what we just did.
And I can appreciate the effort, Councilman Brannigan, but I stick by what I said. I don't think it's going to do what it was supposed to do, because what I just said goes on, continues to go on. It's been going on since the beginning of time. And I don't think anybody, whenever, and I'm going to say this one last thing, okay? Unless you got something else you want to say. Can I say this one last thing? Okay.
Have at it.
You know, man, there's a saying, everywhere I've ever been, particularly on the Kenner Housing Authority when I was on that board, when you got a problem in the house, you always like to take care of the problem in the house. But when the problem is the house, you got to go outside the house. And that confirms what I just said, Councilman Brannigan, because this is outside the house. And it's got to be a reason why it had to go outside the house, because the house is the problem.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Morella.
appreciate the effort.
Well, Mr.
y'all
Morella,
trying to do, but I don't buy what you're saying.
Mr. Morella,
Thank you, Mr. Morella.
Okay.
you stuck with me for 4 more years. This will work out.
And you stuck with me for as ever long as the good Lord has me on
Bring
this
it.
earth.
I'm glad you're here, Mr. Morella.
Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Morella, thank you for your opinions. And it's like everyone is entitled to their opinion. But I would have to agree with Councilman Brannigan that you just saw us working together trying to do this. No one has a crystal ball, not even Mr. Morella, to say that this is not going to work. Who knows what's going to work? If it doesn't work, then we have to reconvene again to be able to address and to fix it. But not to do anything we would not be doing our job as council people. As far as what someone believes what's going on outside of here, or some hidden agenda, or some hidden group, that's their personal opinion to believe that. But I want to commend Councilman Segura for because we were at an impasse in the beginning when it hadn't even hit the floor, because there were some things brought out. But that was good conversations to be able to address the additional days because it's going to come back to the council just in case if Mr. Franklin, Mr. Melvin comes to us and say, look, guys, or whoever is up here, it will take an additional days or it will take less. At that point, we can address it. And not to have that caveat in there, I think it takes away some of the strength of it. But I think this legislation today is better than it was before we started explaining and putting it on the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Councilman Wilmot to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been interesting. It really has. I'm glad to see the process work. This was great, y'all. Everybody chimed in on this. Everybody. All council persons and even the city attorney, the mayor. That's the way government works and should work. Of course, this is 12B, creating council oversight for granting additional time after emergency. It became necessary, right? This amendment Amended legislation is reasonable. It allows for the administration to grant up to 30 days or upon the next council meeting when the city is closed. Then additional time may be granted by the council, so we have council oversight. We are protecting the taxpayer dollars, creating transparency, oversight, and quite simply, this is good government. You saw it in action. I'm proud to be here tonight and work with all these good folks at carving out a good piece of legislation to make something work right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Item 12B, as amended. Councilmember Brannigan.
Yes.
Brennan.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Wilmot.
Yay.
Carroll.
Yay.
Skewer.
Yay.
Hayes.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution calling a public hearing to determine whether the structure located at 1009 Lisanne Drive, Kenner, Louisiana, shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal. I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan. Seeing no discussion?
You need to put your hand up quick.
I know, I got to get quicker. Thank
Like
you.
a parade.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that, the lady, Ms. Sanders, I believe, who was here last time addressing this situation for her home, I feel sorry for her. The fact that it has taken this long to get addressed in a sufficient manner, I think we took too long with that. And I want to say that, that was one of the few things we all agreed upon, that we had never heard about the added time or added conditions for us to ask for. I hope that never happens again. Whatever is put in place for any legislation as it addressed to tearing down a home, that we never have to come back again, that we never miss, and it is always brought up to address and finish it at that meeting. That was a mistake to happen. Not blaming anybody, but that should never happen. Because as we all said, we had never heard anything where it had to be additional time. So I hope this is expedited for Ms. Sanders and her family. I hope the owner of the other property has had enough time to secure some type of support to get it addressed, to make their situation as neighbors, at some point, to have something where they can both agree and have some type of understanding about the situation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Council President?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
I'd like to ask Ms. Wilkin to come up and just give an overview of what she has done in the past and what she's continued to do at Councilman Carroll's office, and maybe copying the rest of the council. Ms. Wilkin?
Yes, this property has been put on the agenda once again as it was last, and hopefully at this council meeting on April 7th, your decision, I know I'm trying to see, your decision might be to in fact order it be demolished should the city, the department, of course, present its case before you. Councilman Carroll, I've been corresponding with both Mrs. Spiller and Mrs. Melanie Sanders, and I've included you on that. Have you had a chance to review those?
I haven't reviewed everything. I have spoken to Ms. Sanders. I have not spoken to the other lady.
Okay. Well, anyway, I've had some correspondence with them. We are, of course, moving forward on the process. We have asked our structural engineer to give us an updated report. We have had our title abstractors update the ownership information. Of course, this resolution is before you here tonight. It will be set for April 7th. We will do our multiple versions of service, certified mail, our police officer, posting the building, everything. As soon as your council clerk conforms the resolution here tonight, the mayor will take it. He will get the copy from her, the signed copy from Natalie, and the mayor will do his notice to appear. That will be served on Mrs. Spiller. Mrs. Spiller is making representations that she will be moving to tear it down. However, that's a similar lip service that I've gotten in the last few months. So we are proceeding full steam ahead to get this back before you. And hopefully, should you order demolition, we'll continue to move in that on that track. But in the meantime, I might be reporting to you that it's been torn down, so we'll see.
Thank you very much.
Of course, and we have multiple more demolition cases coming your way. They'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Wilkin.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote on item 13A. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution requesting the return and restoration of City of Kenner operations to 1801 Williams Boulevard, Kenner, Louisiana 70062, after damage caused by Hurricane Ida. Have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brennan.
Wish to speak?
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you, Council President. Yes, this resolution was requested by the administration, and I spoke with my colleagues, and I think we all agreed at the last council meeting and individually that we definitely want to return to 1801 Williams Boulevard. And it's very clear. We have a committee that we're forming that we're going to discuss more details of where we want to go and how we want to do that. But I think it's important that us as a council decide or, assert that we do want to return to our old facilities, or the old footprint at least, facilities, depending on that. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I think it's pretty clear in terms of with the resolution. I worked with the city attorney to create it. So, thanks.
Councilman Brannigan? Councilman Wilmot?
No. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask anybody who might be interested if they would like to co-sponsor this. I know I'd like my name added if I could.
I'm fine with that.
Councilwoman.
Councilman Brannigan? Yeah. Would like it? Councilman Carroll? Councilman Segura? Councilman Hayes?
Yes, I'd like to do the same.
Okay.
Everybody else.
We're just talking about restoring operations.
Yeah, 18-1.
Councilman Clark? Can we add that to this, please?
Everyone want to be included on this legislation?
Councilman Hayes said no.
No, that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Again, all we're talking about here is restoring operations. This is not a move.
No, I think.
No. Our desire is to go back.
Councilman?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Councilman Hayes, my appreciate is this is just given in the administration the understanding that is the intent of the council that we do go back to 1801 Williams by whatever means, whether the study that we get maybe says restoration of what's there or tearing it down and rebuilding and then go from there. So this is just saying that's where we want to go back to work at some point. How we get there still has to be determined.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, so may I clarify? Councilman Carroll, you want to add your name?
Yes.
Councilman Segura?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney is the author. Councilman Brennan is the author. Councilman Wilmot?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Hayes? Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Thank you. We will add that to the legislation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, council members, please vote. Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segura?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13C is a resolution, 13C was taken earlier in the meeting. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,951, an ordinance accepting the only responsive bid received from LeBlanc and Terrio Equipment Company Incorporated to remove furnish and install fuel pumps in accordance with seal bid number 21-6644 and an amount not to exceed $32,633 for the Kenner Police Department. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote. Councilman Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll,
Yay.
Segur,
Yay.
Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,952. An ordinance authorizing the use of existing Jefferson Parish contract number 55-19838 with Gulf Coast Oil and Supply, LLC, for the purchase of automotive petroleum products on an as-needed basis and an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually for the Department of Fleet Management. I have a motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote. Councilman Carroll,
Yay.
Segur,
Yay.
Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yay.
Wilmot.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,953. An ordinance approving an agreement with Merchants Security Services Incorporated to provide uniformed, unarmed security guard services in accordance with RFP number 21-6639 and an amount not to exceed $150,000 annually for the clerk of court. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Seeing no discussion, council members.
Wait. 1 second.
Councilman?
Yes. If I could have an explanation on this one?
So we had our security contract, we're on the merchants one, so we did an RFP and it came back. So this, the revenue that pays for this is a dedicated revenue that there's a charge that is on the, all the court cases. So it pays for itself basically. So we assess a fee, a security fee, and it covers the cost of having unarmed security.
Is this new?
No,
It's not, okay.
no, it's the same, it's who you see at the front doors with the security system. So it was just the contract ended, so we needed to put it back out.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Council members, please vote. Councilman Segur,
Yay.
Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is a resolution approving an increase to the maximum agreement amount for the agreement with Motorola Solutions Incorporated. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes.
May we have an explanation, please?
I don't know if Kenny wants to talk about it, but basically, they went from 14 radios to 28, so there was an additional need that presented itself during the hurricane. So, you know, we're asking to increase that.
Result of that. Okay, thank you. Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Oyola Drive, 5th District, 50 years. One thing you didn't say, Liz, was what is the maximum amount in dollars?
Yes.
And what is the increase in dollars to get to the maximum amount?
So the
I
original.
want to get the figures.
The original ordinance was approved for $12,000, and since we're doubling, it's going up to $24,000. So it's a $12,000 increase,
And $24,000 max.
max.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Council Chairman, can Mr. Melvin take the mic, because this is in reference to the council.
Part of those additional radios were, not working? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Part of those additional units were for the council during emergencies or special events or whenever we choose to use them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Seeing no further discussion, council members, please vote. Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll,
Yay.
Segur.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance amending the Chapter 15, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 2, Section 15-21 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Red Bud Supply to supply rain gear and boots in accordance with letter bid number 22-1995 in the amount of $20,000 for the Department of General Services. Item 16C is an ordinance that the Kenner City Council limit the amount of a contract that the mayor can enter into without city council approval to $50,000 per calendar year cumulatively, multiple contracts per vendor, entity, and an individual is subject to the $50,000 calendar limit. Any contract amount that exceeds the $50,000 calendar year limit must be brought before the council for approval. Item 16D is an ordinance authorizing the use of existing Jefferson Parish contract number 55-19940 with Trucks and Transportation Equipment Company Incorporated for the purchase of automotive parts and supplies on an as-needed basis in an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually for the Department of Fleet Management. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to update the public and update my fellow council members that today I requested documentation from the administration regarding the investigation that we are going to be holding as a council whole for different types of documentation. I requested that we get it next week. And then also we are in the process of working with the council clerk and with the city attorney, hopefully in the near future to hire counsel to assist and auditing firm to assist in our investigation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. As the mayor alluded to earlier about the Hurricane ISIS, which is an all-female organization, I like to...
Crew, we're not a hurricane.
I call them a hurricane? Maybe that was a hidden...
She's got hurricanes around her. What can I say?
Well, anyway...
I mean, we are forceful, but, you know.
I understand. I agree 100%. But this is International Month of Women. So it is kind of appropriate that the Carnival Club, my daughter even has concerns about maybe joining. So I think for young ladies to see a group of young ladies and a little bit more young ladies that participate, I think is great for the city of Kenner. And for all of us that have daughters or nieces, you know, it's something good that we can brag about, and because young ladies are being the mainstay of the United States, and I think this is something great for them to see that, hey, I could be in this Carnival Club, I can do anything that I want to do. So, as part of the March International Month of Women, thank every lady that's in here for your support to your family, to the city of Kenner, and what you will be doing with your daughters in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. I would like to mention a few things. Mr. Shriner, do you mind taking the podium for a second? I'm not certain about my colleagues, but I've received a lot of emails and text messages and calls regarding a lot of sidewalk and concrete work that's going on in the city. And Mr. Shriner and I had a really good conversation this morning, and I asked him to update us on what that work is so everyone is aware.
Yes, sir. This is the FEMA restoration project. It got underway. It's probably been underway maybe about a month, and we started in District 5. The contractor started in District 5. This goes back to Hurricane Katrina. These were areas that were found to be damaged by the storm. The teams went out sometime within the first year after the storm and developed this list that now the contractor is now working on. We've gotten a lot of calls, well, why isn't my driveway or my sidewalk included on the project? The answer to that is it's not part of our scope of work. That was, again, developed back in this probably as late as 2006. So anyway, we're fielding a lot of these questions, and there's a lot of other issues involved with this project. One, notification to the residents is very important, and it's a daily task force, and also the engineer that's working on it. Is there any other questions I could answer for you? And where we are, or?
That'd be great. I know, Kenny.
His name's Randy. Randy with Meyer, yes. We're probably about a third of the way through. There's a total of 400 locations that they have to go out and fix. Combination of sidewalks, aprons, curbs, and some street replacement.
And some of the inquiries have been, as we spoke about this morning, with the wood framing being removed, that they're going to come back and fill that with the appropriate mud and things that need to be done so there's no liability issues.
Yes, sir. That's part of the scope of the work. Yes.
Okay. Councilman Brannigan?
Yes, I got a notice from my assistant that the Duncan Canal project it's supposed to be March 31st, being finished both ways, and she said she got an email that it's been pushed back another month. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the contractor's projection. That's not ours. He gave us the projection for March way back in December.
Okay.
And we've stuck with that, and now he's telling us he needs more time. And yeah, he's responsible for the time on the project, and it's his means and methods, so we're just telling you what he's advising us of when he gives us these projections.
Okay. Is he being charged any additional fees for pushing these dates back?
That's all going to be accounted for in the end. We agreed not to assess him these liquidated damages until the end.
Okay.
We're also going to be resolving some other potential change orders.
Okay.
So, yeah, the answer, I guess the short answer is yes, he will be charged time on the project. He'll be liquidated damages, yes.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Councilman Brannigan. Councilman Wilmot?
Yeah, I have one question for you, Mr. Schreiner. Dealing with the flyover, are you hearing any estimated dates of completion on that by any chance?
Yeah, the last I heard was late next year, late 2023.
23, late 23?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Director. And am I to assume that, you said that we started in District 5, we are a third of the way through. Will it be contiguous where we start at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Probably,
Or is
yeah.
that,
Yes, sir, they're trying to finish an area at a time.
right,
yeah,
so
that's-
started at 5, we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Is that the
That's
direction?
more or less what he's planning on. Yes.
Okay. Is there a plan or that you have that shows the actual projects in some type of time frame? Do you have that?
Yeah, we have the plans. I think we sent them out to some council members. I'm not sure if you requested those, but yeah, we'd be glad to send them to
Yeah,
you.
I'm requesting it. I'm not sure whoever else may or may not have it, but if you send it to all of us again, I'm sure we would appreciate that.
Sure, we'll do.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. President.
And the gentleman during the call this morning said he would send a spreadsheet with what's been done and what's on the rest of the projected projects, as well as the dates, approximate dates that those will be started or touched.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I think he went as far as to promise it by tomorrow. We'll see.
Mr. Schreiner, if you just stay for one more second in case any comments. The West Loyola Bridge at Joe Yenny, which is being replaced as a DOTD project, was supposed to start in the middle of last month, and we've been notified because of AT&T work that's being done in Entergy, pardon me,
yes.
that it could be as long as the end of March or in sometime in April before that actually starts. Adam is working with Kenny, and they're going to put up some temporary signs advising people that project has been delayed a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiner. Councilman Brannigan?
Oh, yes. At the last council meeting, Mr. Morella had come up and said something about an ordinance that was passed on July 16th, 2021, approving $1 million of purchases for vehicles, and it was using he didn't mention that it was using the Jefferson Parish state contract that's in place. And I just want to clarify that because the council did not approve spending $1 million. The council approved the city as a whole being included in that contract, and there are limitations in that contract on years of vehicles you can purchase, amount of money that you can spend on vehicles, and what dealerships you have to deal with. So I just wanted to clarify that, that the contract that's in place is adding the city to be able to purchase vehicles, but it didn't change the contract that's in place. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Item 18 is new business. We have nothing. Item 19 is unfinished business and a motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 50 years. I want to open by saying let's keep the people of Ukraine in our thoughts and in our prayers, and by the grace of God, righteous will prevail and evil will be vanquished. Okay? I got some comments and some questions, but first I want to start out, since Councilman Brennan talked about the West Loyola Bridge. I have already talked to Kenny Melvin a couple of times, and I want to know what is the plan for the East Loyola Bridge, particularly with that live gas line running parallel to it, and all of the creosote stringers are rotted away on all four corners to support the street. And I want to know what the plans are for our bridge. I understand about the West Loyola being reconstructed, okay? Now, if you want to freeze my time and answer my question now, fine.
I'll answer at the end.
Okay. Now, the comments and the questions, I want to direct this to you, Councilman Carroll. A few months ago, you did your due diligence and you grilled Chief Morris on this building concerning whether or not they followed procedure and whether or not the fire marshal approved this building, inspected it, and approved it. Okay. Well, 3 weeks ago, Katie Moore on Channel 4 stated that this disaster, this $1.2 billion disaster in your district, Councilman, called the airport terminal, was approved by the city, by Mr. Mohammed. We all know that story. We don't need to go in that playbook. And it was also approved by the state fire marshal. So my question to you is, who did you question about passing that disaster waiting to happen that had over 200 life safety issues? Okay? Now I want to direct this to you, Mayor. I want to know if you have a policy that prohibits unclassified employees, I'm pretty sure civil service covers this with the classified employees, from doing work from any of our elected officials in this city. If we don't have a policy, then I demand one. I'm not asking for one, I'm demanding one from the administration, like yesterday. Okay? One more thing in closing. I want to say, although Representative Stagnon don't represent my district, I support the recall effort of him 250%. Anybody got any comments? Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morella. Go ahead, Councilman. You have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Morella.
Thank you.
I was just gonna try and chime in before he mentioned those things, because he's starting to get, that's politics, and that doesn't belong in his chambers. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. And also, I agree with Councilman Wilmot. This isn't a place for anyone to come up here and to give out political, what they believe, what they don't believe as it relates to individuals. This isn't a place. This is to be able to conduct city business. And as far as his comments about me drilling Fire Chief Morris, I didn't drill him. He never said that. Please don't put words in Fire Chief mouth. He and I have a relationship, a professional, respectful relationship. It was questions being asked. So to say that I drilled him or grilled him is inappropriate. And as far as the other question, I would have to research it and see exactly who I spoke with, Mr. Morella, because I don't remember at all. So I just wanted to answer your questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list, so we'll get to you. Pastor Cockerham?
Good evening, everyone.
Pull that microphone down,
Can
please.
you hear me? Okay, is that, I'm Pastor Jacqueline or Jackie Brown Cockerham, 2610 Decatur Street, Apartment A, and that's in Kenner, of course. The first thing I want to say is that my mom used to say, if you see a wrong, then you nip it in the bud. And you nip it in the bud, it then doesn't get a chance to worsen. So that's my first statement. Now, initially. The next thing is that even though I know the council, the administrators, you're sitting here, and you hear what each other might be saying. But it's hard sometimes if you're not speaking into the mic for us to hear you in the rear. I was trying to get anybody's attention to direct that, to let you know that. But of course, it didn't happen. And then Ms. Fontanado came up and did something, spoke with someone. The other thing is the building on Williams Boulevard. I am very concerned about that building because at $54,400 a month, is that what I heard correctly, Ms. Forte? That's the rent here? What was,
The rent here would be $54,000 a month, 90% paid by FEMA, 10% paid by us. So it would be
okay.
$5,400. But there's still electricity, there's maintenance. We had to put a lot of money in the chiller. So I
Right.
mean, there's expenses that are occurring here that would not necessarily occur someplace else.
Okay, all right,
Excuse me,
okay, I just wanted
Pastor,
to know.
instead of, and so you only have 3 minutes, so
Okay.
just pose your questions,
All right.
please.
So the next thing I want to mention is the documentation that you're requesting. Is that something that we should know as residents of the city first, what documents you're requesting, Ms. McKinley? And then the other one from the gentleman, I think is Shriner. Yes. You spoke about the sidewalks in District 5. And then Mr. Carroll, Councilman Carroll indicated that, is that going to be a move up? My concern is, based on what Ms. Forte mentioned earlier about infrastructure. She mentioned that District 1 has been waiting to have work done for over 10-plus years and getting bits and pieces of money. I really think priority would be to deal with the sewage and the drainage in District 1 first, and then we could look at sidewalks. Where's the priority? You got sewage backing up, you got drainage problems,
Thank you,
and it's
Pastor.
not
Your 3
taking
minutes
care
are
of the people of District 1. Okay,
Please
So-
come back for the next meeting.
all right.
Thank you.
So any questions or comments? Suggestions?
Looks like nobody's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
Mr. Taft?
welcome.
I didn't know if you wanted to answer. You want to wait to answer her questions?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's plan, Mr. Taft's next on the list.
Oh, I'm
We're gonna get, you're not on the list, we'll get you last.
That's fine. The last one.
Ms. Cochran, did you leave, Ms. Cochran, did you leave this? I didn't take that. Greg Taft, 3720 West Layola Drive. I just want to take just a moment just to bring up something that's seems to be continuing. It's getting worse, not getting better, and that is litter. We got to do something, and I don't, whether it's putting people on the streets to catch these people, to stop them, but every day when I drive through the lake area, I literally watch people just throw trash on the ground. The other day, going down Williams Boulevard, they're throwing trash out the car window while they're driving. It makes our city look bad. That's really what it does. And it would take employees forever to clean up after somebody, because unless we stop it or do something to deter it, it's just going to keep happening, and it's just going to keep evolving. And all I'm saying is, y'all seem to be so diligent to get solutions to the things that's hurting this city. What this city looks like isn't pretty, and we're not making it look good to those visitors or those people passing through. And until we stop the ones that are doing it, it's just going to continue. I don't have a solution for it, but I'm just telling you, it's out there. If you can't help but miss it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Teft. Ms. Shannon West? Please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. My name is Shannon West. I'm actually, my children attend Kinder Discovery School at 201 Vintage Drive. I have some other moms with me as well. And we are here to actually question the council as to why a school in Kenner does not have a home field to play their sports in. We currently, we're told that Chappelle is using the Butch Dewey Field for their home games. We're currently in softball season, so we're softball moms.
Speak up, please.
Okay, sorry.
No.
We're softball moms, so we're in softball season, and our Kenner Discovery softball team does not have a home field to play on. Chappelle is currently using Butch Dewey as their home field. Chappelle is not in Kenner. And Mount Carmel is using Berlino. And they're also not a Kenner school. So we were just curious as to know, we heard maybe there were some discussions, but we were hoping that maybe you could help us get that on a fast track, maybe, so that our kids can have a home field in Kenner to play on. Use the Kenner parks for that. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, just not for softball, but for football as well, because we were using Berlino, and if that hasn't been fixed, then we only had half of the field to use for the bleachers, because the other half was deemed unable to be used due to, I guess, Hurricane Ida. So hopefully by the time, football season comes into play, we'll be able to use the whole field, because that was a problem, for the season.
Okay. Any other comments?
I mean, we use Wentwood now, but Wentwood's fields are pretty deplorable. There's no back fence for softball. So we can't even have home games there. We were using Woodlake last year, but for some reason we cannot use Woodlake this year. But our girls don't have any home place to go to. When you're playing sports, you want that home field advantage. We don't have that home field advantage at all.
All of our games are at least an hour to an hour and a half away. So as a working mom, when you have a game at 3:30, I can't leave my job, every 2 to 3 times a week to go an hour and a half away per game, So it's unfortunate for me as a parent that I can't support my daughter and her teammates. Right. So that's also a huge factor.
Right. All of the games have to be scheduled away because our girls don't have a home field. So.
Understood. If you don't mind, if you have any other questions, and we'll get Charles Elaine, who's in charge of recreation, to come up, and if he can respond and give you some information, and if it's something we could certainly work out, I'm sure he'll do his best to accommodate you.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
I have
Councilman Carroll?
Yeah, thank you, ladies, for coming. The Recreation Department sports has always been a passion of mine for the children to play in the schools. Have you asked the Kenner Recreation Department about the possibility of a location for, I guess,
So-
softball or football or both?
I believe that the school has been in contact and has been sending emails. And as of today, I believe they're still in discussion with trying to have a meeting. So I think since August of 2020, they've been trying to find a home field for us, and it's still been like just pushed on the back burner.
Yeah, and
So there's definitely emails that are corresponding back and forth between the school and the city.
and
Councilman, that's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's 3 minutes, and
Yeah.
maybe Charles can share some light.
Yeah, but I'm not finished. I'm not finished talking to them. I'd like to finish talking to them, not receive anything. I'm not finished. Thank you. He made me lose my train of thought here, but okay.
Which hurricane, or is your school named after? No, I'm sorry, that's not.
But I'm just going to say that, you know, I'm going to throw this out there. Buddy Lawson is in the city of Kenner, District 1. We have a baseball field. We have a football field. So I think it would be a good partnership if you even consider that. Take a ride out there, take a look at it to see. We definitely need a little more work done to the field right now because we don't have anything going on, and it would be good to see.
I'm sure the school would be willing to help.
You know?
As well as parents. We have a big parent involvement at Kenner
So,
Discovery.
so please,
Absolutely.
please feel that we are open to that because it is good for our community too to see the young ladies out there playing, and it stimulates everything as it relates to recreation. So, please, Mr. Director, I'm going to say that if that is a possibility, I would like to offer. Now, I don't know what your requirements are for dressing rooms and showers. We don't have any of that. But if it doesn't require that, then there may be a possibility. Oh, man. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm done.
Good deal. Excuse me. Councilman?
Let Charles go first.
First, I'll address to clear if there's any misconceptions on Mount Carmel and Chappelle. One, the city had nothing to do with those fields. We didn't spend money on those fields. The schools did. So they raised the money. I could tell you that Chappelle put over $25,000 to build out that one field. They also pay us rent to use the field. Same thing with Mount Carmel. I'm not going to go into the dollars, but it's thousands of dollars that they pay in rent. Plus, they spend their own money to maintain that facility. And that field at Berlino actually started when I was athletic director at Chappelle. So it originally was an agreement between the city and Chappelle High School when I was there, and that was Chappelle's field. I don't know what happened in the years, you know, that has transpired, but that was back in 2015. So when that field started. So both of those are under non-exclusive cooperative endeavor agreements with the city. So they are paying rent, and all the maintenance is on the schools. We don't do anything on maintenance for either field. Chappelle built everything in a short period of time, including some repair work that was IDA related. So they got that field ready for play because they needed it to play. To answer another question was that we have had 2 meetings with Mr. Frischartz and the administration at the school, and we also did one site visit to a potential site that included coaches. So that conversation did happen, but these seasons also came up pretty quick. I mean, you need a couple of months to build these. So even if we go to Lawson, I mean, it's going to take a couple of weeks for any of the maintenance guys that know how to do fields to even attempt to get that field ready. I mean, you have about a month, I guess, right? So absolutely, discussions have already taken place with Kenner Discovery, both for baseball and softball, and that's why both of those teams are practicing at Wentwood. That's the only field that could accommodate high school baseball. And I know it's not in great shape. It's certainly not in game shape. And we have a tremendous amount of lighting damage. For example, if you had to play a night game at Buddy Lawson, you couldn't right now because the 3 light poles on the west side of the field, so down the third baseline, do not light up. So you would have to play them, if you play at 4 o'clock and we have daylight savings, certainly that's an option, absolutely. But it would take some time. Potentially, maybe by a playoff situation if we act on that now, but that would take some time, absolutely. But there's no doubt I sat in the meeting, so I've had meetings with Mr. Gerald and the administration, so absolutely that has taken place.
The boys went with fields.
Yeah.
Horrible condition. The
Yeah.
batting cages are in horrible condition. Our boys are not using that field. They are actually going to Delta Playground to use their fields.
Okay.
All their games are at Bonneville.
Right. No, we knew they couldn't play any games there, absolutely.
So, but as a parent, I'm able to go to those games, but not to the softball games.
Right. We're severely limited on fields at the moment. Certainly you need at least probably a 200 distance fence for softball and bigger for baseball. And, unless Kenner Discovery wants to reach out to Chappelle or Mount Carmel to see if they would be willing to accommodate a couple of games, maybe a senior night or something like that. Because again, it is non-exclusive, but they do have the ability, because they're putting their money and they're also paying rent, to try and work with other organizations.
To get a field, to get Wentwood, fix it up.
Absolutely, that's part of any location in the city is on the table as far as a possibility for Kenner Discovery to do the same thing. Basically, if we can identify a field that works distance-wise, meaning fences, and available from the city's end that wouldn't disrupt the growing recreation programs, then we could look at certain locations for baseball and softball as well as soccer if it's not the stadium. And in turn, Kenner Discovery would be in a similar agreement where they would have to put the money into getting the field playable like they want it, and they could brand it just like the other two schools do. And for the record, there are a tremendous amount of kids from Kenner that go to both of those schools, so it's not, I know it's a New Orleans school, but Mount Carmel has about 15% of their student body from Kenner. It's about 188 kids, and it's the number 2 or 3 zip code of where they find their students from. And Chappelle obviously has a much larger percentage, about 38% of kids, and about 50% of their softball program come from Kenner. So it's not like we're bringing kids in that aren't from this area. But absolutely, Kenner Discovery is high on the priority list. We've just, had the storm not happened, something would have already occurred. But unfortunately, we're very limited on how many fields we have, and some of the ones that we do have available are far too small to play anything on the varsity level. Maybe middle school, but that's about it right now. But that could be set in place, certainly, going into next school year.
And Charles,
Yes,
I
sir.
think it becomes where you are talking with Gerald Fisher, obviously,
Yes,
for
sir.
school board funding, because it goes outside the city of Kenner, because Mount Carmel and Chappelle obviously have their own funding sources.
Right.
With a public school, you're going to have to, or charter school, you're going to have to go, it still falls under Jessamine Parish School System, and St. Denapolis would be the school board member for that. So mentioning that to Gerald Fisher, to have him working with the school board / St. Denapolis would help you ladies and your kids. All right, no problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Mayor. Sir,
Wait,
you have 3 seconds.
Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry, George. Pardon me. No, just stand there, please. Councilman Brannigan wanted to speak, and I forgot.
Okay, I'm in District 4, that's what Berlino is, and as you heard tonight, we have an press box issue, and we're hoping to get that resolved, and because I know it messed up your football season last year, so I will get with the recreation director and see where we are to try and get this thing done before football season. I'm not making any promises, though, okay?
Thank you, ladies.
Oh, and one other thing. Councilmember McKinney and I did meet with Patty Glazer, and Mayor Zahn also met with Patty Glazer about football. If you want to make a comment on that.
Right, and that's exactly correct. And that would also go back to what Councilman Brannigan is talking about, would go back to us working with getting the funding from FEMA to get those stands rehabbed. And get that cargo unit that you're talking about also, or Deborah was talking about earlier. So when these things came up with Patty Glazer in the past, myself, Councilman Brannigan, Councilwoman McKinney, met with her, I think 2 different times, and we were able to come to some type of agreement to move y'all on the other side and I believe the visiting team got the sod that's in deterioration right now, but that got hit. So hopefully we can work something out between now and football season. And I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was a division of what we had to do. But at least we made it available, and our attorneys worked with Patty Glazer, with the council people, to make that happen there. So like Charles said earlier, had Ida not happened, we wouldn't have a lot of problems, but we wouldn't have these problems in the fields either. But let us work on that. George, you and I can work on it to try to resolve something, and that sounds like it's going to be one of the fields that are addressed anyway very quickly.
Right. And my cell number's on those cards, so it's, okay, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Yes, sir.
Brian Miller, Second District. One, I apologize, I'll sign next time. Two questions. First, I heard the director over here say that he has 30 people working or 40 people working and you're 30 short. There's 4 job openings on the City of Kenner website. I'm currently looking, so if you could put any of those 30 job openings out, I'll apply. Okay, I'll apply. Second, 17th I came to the council meeting and I wanted to address it then. It kind of ran long, and I had to go. On the 17th, Cornerstone had an explosion at its facility. Doesn't seem like that's a big concern of ours because Cornerstone is in Waggaman, Louisiana, right? The shift of the wind direction and the speed puts any type of cloud over our city on the south side, sir. I did send you an email. I don't know if you got it. I did get it. Okay. My question is, do we, as a city, have a relationship with Cornerstone where they're giving a notification to us as a city or its residents like they do in Waggaman and in River Ridge? And the reason I ask that is this, in case you're not aware, and I'm not just trying to come up here to create problems. I am a former fireman from Waggaman. I know what goes on out there. On the 17th, for the explosion, when the Live Oak Manor Fire Department responded, Cornerstone didn't let them in. There was no verification that there was not a release. We were just told there wasn't. And if you read the newspaper article, Dino Noble, where the explosion occurred in Cornerstone, their representative, who's out of state, said the same thing. I'm not at liberty to give you full disclosure except that we had an explosion and I'm being told there was no release. With them not allowing our local first responders in, just to verify, that's all we need because we want to protect our citizens, and they're not allowing it. Or they're doing anything for us or with you, whether it's the administration, the council. I'm sure they have some type of relationship with either the chief of fire or police, to where we as citizens can be notified when these type things occur. Because I think it needs to be addressed with them for the protection of us. And I know you said you don't want, I'm not up here to make anything political. I really don't think the parish council is doing anything for us. And I'm asking you as a citizen of Kenner, is there something we can do?
Understood. Mayor?
It's a Doug Dote question. We can let Doug Dote come up. EOC Director.
So the City of Kenner is a member of the Local Emergency Planning Commission or Committee of Jefferson Parish, and that is the hazmat central committee that addresses all the hazmat issues within the local jurisdiction. We also receive reports on a daily basis from fire alarm as well as the Jefferson Parish Emergency Management. Cornerstone reports to them as far as any releases and any type of activity that occurs there that requires an emergency response. So any event that there is anything that we need to be aware of, we are notified at least through 2 different levels of communications. We are very aware of Cornerstone and those types of facilities on the West Bank since 1982 when we had an incident here in Kenner, and Mrs. Segura may recall that, where we had to evacuate a portion of District 1 because of an incident that occurred that year. So we are aware of what goes on there, and we are notified if there is an event on both the parish level and a local level if that were to occur, if it were to present any type of issue for us.
So, and is there anything that we do to alert people?
Yes, we are, so Kenner, as well as all the other jurisdictions in Jefferson Parish, are tied into Jefferson Parish the alert system. So in the event that there was something that occurred that we became aware of, or that Jefferson Parish becomes aware of, or that the fire alarm becomes aware of, that system is activated, and they would, depending on wind direction or what the chemical is or whatever the case may be, they would be able to notify the local jurisdiction, including Kenner.
So my question would be then, who notified the Wagaman and Riverbridge residents? Because they're saying it's Cornerstone that sent them out like a text message to the phone, or is it the LEPC? And when was the last LEPC meeting?
The LECP does not meet on a regular basis. They have met, I think the last time they met was probably about a year or so ago. But we do receive notifications from Fire Alarm, Jefferson Parish. Those are the two entities that we would receive that information from. Fire Alarm would cover anything that occurs in the West Bank. Jefferson Parish Fire Alarm communicates with the fire department here as well as our department, and then we would share that information with local residents. If we had a need to, we would activate Jefferson Parish Alert. They typically would notify us of something occurring on the West Bank.
All right, thank you, Mr. Doe. Okay.
One last thing, and I'm going to sit down. In regards to the LEPC, which falls under the Right to Know Act, if we have a local emergency planning commission and they haven't met in a year, what's the purpose of them being together? Shouldn't they meet even monthly, bi-monthly, so that more updated information is given? And the reason, and I know I'm turning to you, Doug, but it's more of a parish thing when it comes to the LEPC, which the fire chief I work for has said they have not met in months. And I think that's a problem for us as a city here, that we should be getting notified when things like that are occurring, because it can affect us in a very negative way and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I'll have
Go ahead,
if it's
Councilman.
okay to make a few comments here. I got to make a few comments. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Miller, thank you for your comments. I did get your message, and I am aware of the Wagaman, the plant. I have a little bit, I used to work for emergency management with the Department of Energy, so I understand a little bit about plumes and have they spread. Personally, within the city of Kenner, District 1, we are the unique position where we live by the river. This facility is on the west bank of the river. Barges pass every day, ships pass every day. We have the train that pass every day. We have cars and tankers. So we have the airport, which we have dealt with plane crashes. So, you know, we are surrounded by it, and it is a situation that we live with every day. And, you know, we never know when something's going to happen. We are dependent upon facilities to do the proper notifications to let us know. Without that, then there could be a problem. And anything that can be done to support that for the community, with us probably reaching out to them and saying, hey, put us on some type of alert or whatever. I have a good relationship with the parish councilman who represents District 1 in Wagaman. We talk about it. Sometimes it's after the fact, but we don't have anything in place I am aware of other than what the police department and the fire have relationships with these different organizations. So that may be something that I could look into and ask about, visit the plant and ask them about that, since, you know, you go down Williams Boulevard, directly across the river is where, you know, all of that area is affecting not only District 1, but it will float into District 2 as well. It doesn't stop and keep going. So thanks for the information. We appreciate that. And I will reach out to them next week and ask about certain notifications as it relates to their plant. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, sir, if you'd state your name and address.
Darrell Price, District 1. I heard this lady's come up just now and talked about the recreation at Kenner. And the councilman offered Buddy Lawson. You know, I know the storm was serious, and I know we went through a lot of damage, but when you ride around Kenner and you look at some of the sites, it's unbelievable that the grass is not cut. You know, just upkeep. You know, I took and cut Buddy Lawson infield and the area where the kids play myself. You know, I mean, Kenner has equipment. You know, these guys ride in the trucks, park, and go to sleep. I mean, why they not cleaning the parks? The storm is over. I'm just saying, ride around, man. The city is horrible. Now, I know we had a storm, but, man, we can do better. I mean, come on. We could still play on the park, throw the football, hit the ball, you know. But, man, you don't even come by and take care of the places. And we're paying taxes. We know you're going through some things. And so when we talk about District 1, I hear everything about District 1 is at the bottom. We got to do better with that. Come on now. We got to do better. Why are not some of those things important to the city? Because we live in those areas? Come on now. And you know what I'm talking about. We got to do better as a people. Come on. My kids deserve to live in a community where it's clean, when they can walk around the park like yours. We got to do better. Come on now. And we can. We can. Government should work for all people, not some. And that continues to happen. Everywhere you look, we could do better.
Thank you, sir. Okay, seeing no one else wishing to address, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.